Great picture.
Welcome to tonight's pre-meeting for October 23rd, 2023. Anything to review on city council agenda?
No, ma'am.
No.
How much are we going to go into the housing needs assessment?
It's an information only agenda item tonight? What are you looking for from that? I apologize. It's an information only memo tonight.
Okay, so can we ask questions about it?
Certainly.
It's not an agenda item, so go ahead.
Okay.
Lindsay? Or,
Stephanie's here.
perfect. Sorry. Thank you.
Who was, the mover behind it? And what do we expect to accomplish?
I'm sorry, Stephanie Trawler, I did not hear the question. Can you please repeat?
This on the housing needs, assessment, the informational only item, and I'd like more information about it.
Sure. So the housing needs assessment is done periodically, about every 5 years, to really assess what the housing inventory the city currently offers, both affordable and to identify the housing needs of residents and then identify the gap that exists.
Okay. And from what I gathered from the information, we're going to hire a contractor to do this?
We have hired a contractor through a competitive process. Yes, sir.
How much did it cost?
I believe it was 40,000.
Okay. And what do we expect to gain that we don't already know?
So there's a couple of items that have changed since our last housing needs assessment. Obviously, the pandemic has created a big question mark on what our residents need, and with the comprehensive plan, what we are able to build to under the new water budget. So the last comprehensive plan, we did not have those pieces of information, and those will be considered when we do the data analysis for this housing needs assessment.
So can you give me an example of what really potentially could change?
The gap between the housing needs. So we suspect preliminary data showing that there are not enough units for our residents to live in. So they will do a complete housing needs assessment that will look at what is already existing housing inventory on all levels and all markets, and survey the residents and their income needs, and then assess the gap in between. That information will be represented to City Council, I believe, the first of 2024.
But what are we going to gather? What are we going to learn from this that we don't already know?
Well, we don't know currently right now what our housing needs is for certain demographics of our residents. So we hope that we will learn that the housing needs assessment will look at how many residents we have, their income disparities, and what housing price points are missing in our market to house all of our residents.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I don't have questions about the agenda, but I do want to follow back up about the ask from the inclusivity board.
Okay, 1 second.
Yep.
And I don't have anything, so go ahead.
So if you remember last week, and I have some more information as far as why the inclusivity board had a budget. So they were given a budget in order to basically do mini grants, and that program never really took off. And part of it is after discussion with the city attorney's office as far as complexities around giving away government funds, and it's a lot of things that'd be difficult to deny things based on people's opinions, I think, or you might get applications for things that may not be appropriate to give taxpayer funds to. So it's been difficult for them to implement it and hasn't really happened. The money was moved to human resources for the work with the equitability process coordinator is where that money went. And since it was in the same bucket, that's why we didn't see it on the budget, which makes sense because it's still in city manager's office bucket. And so if you remember, they had asked about giving the money to Growing Home. And the reason was that they wanted to do something that supported homelessness initiatives. Their contingency plan that they voted on as a group was to give the money to the City Utility Assistance Fund, was what they had asked. I know I had got feedback from council member as far as potentially using it for more vouchers for homeless program. That wasn't something they recommended, but maybe that might make sense since it's kind of in the same idea as what the inclusivity board came up with to expend the funds that they have left this budget cycle. So I wanted to bring it back up and see what kind of direction we might be able to give or not give for those funds in the work that our board asked to do.
Counselor Miller?
I'm fine with either the housing preservation, keeping people housed, or the vouchers, or whatever would be, addressing the homeless need. We're, just a clarification question, because I'm catching up on remembering this part of it, but the growing home component, is that not something that we wanted, so we were coming up with a different idea, or?
It sounded like there was a pushback on doing that, and I don't know from council, and I don't know, part of that might be because we already give Growing Home a good amount of money. So I don't know if that was, you'd have to, specific
Yeah,
council
I
members who
remember,
said no might have to say why. Maybe there was also some council members who just generally thought it should go back in the general fund.
Just one last thing then, did they suggest the housing voucher, or just?
No,
more
somebody
money
from
into it?
council did.
Okay. Well, I would kind of defer to what the inclusivity board would ultimately want to do, which side of the housing spectrum do they want to assist with? So I'd be open to either.
What about their ask for the utility assistance?
I like that, yeah, I like that one too.
And I don't think I brought that up before. I didn't realize that was a contingency, so I personally am open to either, so I don't know if there's a majority of council that feels one way or another.
Counselor Seymour?
And not anything against Growing Home at all, I'm a supporter, but I see this more of a budgetary carryover issue, more of, okay, let's put it back in the fund and then next year reallocate that budget. Yeah.
And I guess the only thing I would, and I see that standpoint, I guess the reason I think I'm willing to look at one of the things that they do is it is something that prior practice was given to them in order to spend money on something that they feel is a worthy cause. And so I guess my reasoning is just, they're trying to do the job that they were asked to do. I think it makes sense that money isn't in the budget anymore, and if they have a specific project that they want to spend money on, that they bring it forward and then it gets approved versus, here's money, figure out how to spend it. But they've done a substantial amount of conversation over the last couple of months trying to find a way that they can do something meaningful with the money, and basically do the job that they were seated to do. And so that's part of the reason, if, or if there's something that's in the same vein, I think it would be nice for us to be able to help them do the work we asked them to do.
Counselor Baker?
I would like to see a return to the general fund.
Counselor Zadi?
I'm good with either idea of Growing Home or the utility fund, because to what Mayor Protem said, I think that's what they're asked to do, so let them do it. And if we want to change the rules, then we should do that next year. But they've thought about this. It sounds like they've thought this through, and we shouldn't just change the rules on them.
And so where are you?
I like the utility fund just because, or if we want to do something else, if we want to do something around homelessness, because that was the original ask, I like the idea of the vouchers because that's something that we certainly use up. But I like the utility fund as well, and that is something that they came up as a contingency to Growing Home. Like Counselor Seymour, nothing against Growing Home, but we do already give them money and we participate in their events. So I feel like, although they're worthy, maybe there's some other places we could spend that money.
So from my list of things, we have explain the housing versus the voucher. You had housing and voucher.
I'm not sure what the housing, I think Councilor Miller said housing, but I think you generally meant the vouchers, didn't you?
I was describing I was describing the utility fund as housing preservation or keeping people housed. I was just classifying it in my head out loud.
Okay.
So I'm fine with
Okay,
either.
so voucher or utility, a relocate budget, return, so we have two return to the general fund, and then growing home or utility and utility funds. So the utility fund, I would go with either utility or the vouchers, and I'd take those two back to them and let them decide between those two.
Councilor Zadi, would you be open to that? Because if you were, that's 4 people saying that.
Yep. Let them choose what they want.
So I guess then I would ask that the staff liaison, which is Cody, if she could get back with that group. I don't know how you accommodate that. I know you want to make sure that they don't have meetings in email, but if you could pass that back along, we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Anyone else have any reports up?
I went to Dr. Cog. They basically recognized a former mayor of the Minster for the work and participation that really Mayor Atchison had done for Dr. Cog. And they reviewed some of these special funding of special projects within the Dr. Cog area. We didn't get any of that, and then they're having more contests for funds as we go along, which is something they all do almost every meeting, isn't it, Councilor Nermella?
They do give us updates often on Prop 123 and what they have going.
Anyone else? All right, we can go back out and party. I'm glad you're here, safe and sound.
Carry my apple.
45 minutes in one spot.
Good.
Welcome to tonight's meeting of October 23rd, 2023. Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome to the City of Westminster City Council meeting for October 23rd, 2023. We thank you for coming and would like to remind all in attendance that our meetings are subject to the rules of decorum that are posted at the back of the room. These rules are in effect while our meetings are in session, as well as during breaks and transitions between meetings. We want to be sure all feel welcome and remind all that there is an expectation that no attendee shall disrupt this meeting and that threats and intimidation are prohibited. Signs and placards are prohibited in council chambers, and all attendees shall remain seated in the seats provided, not the aisles, nor shall the doorways be blocked. Roll call, please.
Councillor Baker.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott.
Present.
Councillor Emmons.
Present.
Councillor Azadi.
Here.
Mayor McNally.
Here.
Councillor Nermella.
Here.
And Councillor Seymour.
Here.
That brings us to minutes of October 9th. Councillor Seymour?
I move to approve the minutes of the October 9th, 2023 meeting as presented.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the meetings of October 9th, 2023. Is there any further questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to presentations. Tonight we have several. The first one is going to be the City of Westminster's Charter Anniversary that we celebrated out here with some great thanks staff for all the goodies that were shared tonight. But in February of 1911, the Village of Harris petitioned the county court to set an election asking the town to incorporate. On April 4th, 1911, 35 residents voted on the question of incorporation. The measure passed with 83% of the voting residents in favor of incorporating Harris Village under the name Westminster. In 1957, Mayor A.V. Wilson formed a committee who concluded Westminster needed to become a home rule city. The 21-member Westminster Charter Convention was elected and wrote the Westminster City Charter. The convention adopted the charter on November 8, 1957, and it was approved by the voters on January 7, 1958. Would anyone from Historical Society come down and join me for the proclamation?
I'm Linda Graybeal. I'm the president of Westminster Historical Society.
I'm Bob Grable. I'm on the board.
Thank you for being here. I know we had some others that maybe got tied up in traffic tonight, but we want to present this proclamation. Whereas in 1911, Harris Village incorporated under the name Westminster, and whereas the town grew, Mayor A.V. Wilson saw the need to explore how to manage that growth, formed a committee known as the Westminster Charter Convention. And whereas the convention worked tirelessly, holding public hearings, seeking advice from the Colorado Municipal League, detailed studies and other charters, and engaging the public to find a solid solution. And whereas the convention submitted the result of its efforts in the form of a proposed charter for consideration by the voters. And whereas the voters accepted the Home Rule Charter, forming a council manager form of government, which Westminster still employs today. And whereas this form of government has been drawn to assure maximum flexibility and organizational arrangement, so the city is able to adjust to demands and changing circumstance. Now therefore, I, Nancy McNally, Mayor of the City of Westminster, on behalf of the entire City Council and staff, do hereby proclaim the 66th anniversary of the Westminster City Charter and call upon the people of Westminster to recognize the work and the convention put into writing a charter that continues to guide Westminster today. Signed this 23rd day of October, 2023. There you go.
Could I have Dr. Michelle Haney please join me up front? So, Dr. Haney has been my boss for about 10 years, believe it or not, because I teach adjunct at Red Rocks Community College, where she has served as the leader of that college for 16 years, 31 years in Colorado, and over 50 in education, correct? I think you obviously earned every single one of them. But I was very excited to be able to honor her tonight. She will be retiring in January of this next year if they can find a suitable replacement, which might be hard, so they might hold you back a while. But do you have any, one of the other things that Michelle and I both served on the council together. Michelle was with us for 2 years, filling somebody else's seat who was elected to higher office. I don't remember which seat you filled. Shannon Bird, who is still our representative for HD 29 now after the redistricting. So I want to give you an opportunity to say anything you would like to.
Well, let me say it's certainly been a pleasure being a resident of Westminster, and I've been involved in a few things. The library at Front Range, the coordination between the city and the college, I took a part in, and I was on the inclusivity board, and I was on the Parks and Rec board, and so my heart certainly lies within Westminster. And I really thank you all for the proclamation tonight. I don't want to retire, so find something for me to do, okay?
I am already thinking about things that we could have Michelle do. So with that, it is an honor personally for me to have been able to serve with you and work for you. The college is a great place to work. I've got to see a lot of young next level professionals coming through the college network at Red Rocks. And so she runs a fantastic program, and it is a loss for Colorado, but well-deserved retirement. So with that, whereas we are here today to recognize Michelle Haney and her many years of service as an educator, community leader, and former city councilor, and whereas Dr. Haney has served the Colorado Community College system for over 31 years and Red Rocks Community College for 15 years, touching countless students' lives, and whereas Dr. Haney has received many awards and recognitions for her innovative and effective leadership, including the Shirley B. Gordon Award, from Phi Theta Kappa and Women, did I say that right? Yeah. Women in, she's still teaching me stuff. In Business and Award, Denver Business Journal, and whereas she was named a leader among leaders and Women of the Year by American Association of Women in Community Colleges and the City of Westminster, respectively, as well as being voted President of the Year in 2019 by students of the community college system, and whereas she also served on Westminster City Council and has authored 3 books which have been published in several languages. Now, therefore, I, Nancy McNally, Mayor of the City of Westminster, on behalf of the entire City Council and staff, do hereby proclaim appreciation for her dedication to education and public service to Dr. Michelle Haney, and call upon the people of Westminster to recognize Dr. Haney's dedication for the past 16 years to Red Rocks Community College, as well as her significant contributions throughout Colorado Community College system. Signed this 23rd day of October 2023, Nancy McNally, Mayor, Westminster.
Thank you so much. Got it.
Yes, ma'am. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you all.
That brings us to presentation of Employee Service Awards. And we have 20, 25, and 35 years tonight. And I just want to say to families and friends that are here with people, please come up with them as we honor them. And we just thank families for giving the employee to us during the workday and coming home to you at night. We don't often get to say thank you to you, but we do tonight, and we thank all of those that we're honoring tonight. Councilor Baker, you're doing 20 years.
I would like really Mr. Josh Nims and his family to join me at the podium. We're all family. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little about you and what you do?
This wasn't expected. I'm Josh Nims. I've been with the city for 20 years. I'm in the Public Works and Utilities Department. I'm part of the Water Resources team, so most of my time here has been helping with the city's raw water supply, taking the water from the snowpack and putting it into Stanley, and being kind of responsible for managing the ditches and all the kind of raw water infrastructure.
I'll go into a little more depth. Josh Nims was really hired in 2003 as a water resource engineer in the Public Works and, the utility department. He is really currently the really interim water resource administrator. He didn't tell you that. And he helps manage the city's raw water system, water rights, and really water supply planning. Josh is really proud to be involved in the really development and, the protection of the city's water supply, which includes helping to purchase over $20 million of really water rights. That was what, an acre foot? And, the negotiating noteworthy water agreements with really Thornton, Highland Hills, and other partners. Josh was born in, New Mexico, another water poor state, and is a graduate of the Water Education Colorado's Water Leaders Program. He loves really talking water and, the predicting water supply of the conditions. Josh is also celebrating his 20-year wedding anniversary with his wife, Esther, this month. Together, they really navigate the joys of having 16-year-old twins in really high school who are not yet driving. They live in Boulder, where Josh attempts beekeeping and enjoys spending time with his family and getting outdoors to bike, hike, and to play pickleball.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
And we have the award, which you get to hold.
Okay.
And hold the pin behind the award.
All right, looking right here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Congratulations. Thank you.
Next, we have some 25 years, but we have some folks that didn't show up. How dare they? But we'll say, congratulate them anyway. Sean Chandler has been employed with the Westminster Police Department since September 28, 1998. He was a lateral hire for 4 years, with 4 years of experience with Cable County Sheriff's Department in West Virginia. Sean has served Westminster citizens on patrol as a traffic officer and as a school resource officer for his 25 years with Westminster. He is currently a day shift patrol officer. Sean was awarded the Purple Heart and Medal of Valor for his involvement in an armed bank robbery in 2009 when he was shot while driving his patrol vehicle. He has also been awarded a Distinguished Service Medal for his work interacting with troubled students at Westminster High School. Sean lives in Thornton with his fiancée Jennifer and stepson Gavin. He has 5 stepsons, Joshua, Ryan, Noah, Ethan, and Gavin, and a daughter, Peyton. Sometime later on this year, Sean does plan on retiring from the city and has plans to move back to West Virginia. Well, that's sad, but let's give him a hand. Greg Franks was hired as a firefighter in 1998, then promoted to paramedic in 2003, a position Greg currently holds. Greg is currently assigned as the paramedic on Medic 4 at Station 4. Greg has been a member of the Wildland team for 17 years and a member of the Hazmat team for 14 years. Greg also serves as treasurer for the Westminster Firefighters Fire Victims Burn Fund. When off duty, Greg enjoys spending time with his wife, Alicia. A hand for him. Is Steve Roll, did he come? No, he's not here. Another one. All right. Steve Roll grew up in Arvada and graduated from Arvada High School. After graduation, he did a tour as a Marine infantryman while being assigned to Marine Barracks 8 and 1 in Washington, D.C., where he functioned as White House Marine. After the Marines, he attended college, then the police academy. He was hired in 1998 as a police officer. Since then, Steve has completed various assignments, including the position of Corps Economic Crimes Detective, Special Weapons and Tactics Team, SWAT, Inner Perimeter member, one of the original Honor Guard members, lead less lethal instructor, field training instructor, elected police pension board representative, patrol sergeant, and now detective sergeant. Steve retired from the SWAT team after 17 successful years and over 250 call-outs. Steve has been a part of several teams in action awards over the years for different projects and has been nominated for Officer of the Year from Denver Area Property Investigators Group, DAPIG, and the Elks Lodge. Steve did win Police Officer of the Year for 2004 from the Masons Lodge and has been awarded a meritorious medal in 2015 for actions during a SWAT call-out. During his tenure as detective, he handled most economic crimes. This was his specialty in several large embezzlement cases, some estimated into the millions. Steve also handled several homicide cases and was proud to get convictions on all of those cases. As an Honor Guard member, he has been blessed to represent our agency at many important events over the years. Steve is married with one daughter. Off duty, he primarily runs a horse ranch and a dog boarding and training business. When Steve has free time, he likes to work out, ride horses, and spend time with his family. Let's hear it for Steve. Do we have Paul Sibley here? Come on down. Nobody with you tonight?
She's helping our kids.
Oh, and you're not there.
I'm here.
The night off, huh?
Yeah.
And you're okay? You won't get in trouble?
100%.
All right. Introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Paul Sibley. I started with the city back in October of '98. Was involved in the construction and grow-in of Walnut Creek Golf Preserve and have been here ever since. I've had the opportunity to grow and develop my professional career, and that's all with my managers within golf who have given me opportunities.
Great. Thanks for being here tonight.
Yes, thank you.
You said the first two sentences. Paul Shibley was hired in October 1998 as the second assistant golf course superintendent during the construction and grow-in of Walnut Creek Golf Preserve. Paul held that position for 15 years, then was promoted to golf course superintendent in June of 13. Over the course of his career at the city, he has seen the evolution of Walnut Creek through the construction and grow-in to what it is now, one of the premier golf courses in the state. Paul is proud to be a member of the team that has been part of the record rounds and revenues, rebranding efforts of the golf course, the hosting of multiple U.S. Open qualifiers, American Junior Golf Association championships, and Women's U.S. Open sectional, as well as many other Colorado Golf Association, Colorado Women's Golf Association events. Paul is currently serving on the board of directors for the Rocky Mountain Golf Course Superintendents Association as past president, as well as a trustee for the Rocky Mountain Environmental Golf Institute. Paul has been married for 32 years, has two children, ages 32 and 28. He enjoys fishing whenever and wherever the opportunity presents itself, and he loves to chase elk and deer around the woods every October. Have you done that yet?
Not this year.
You have a week left.
I know.
Well, thank you. Here's your 25-year pin.
Thank you.
I usually give this to your wife.
Oh,
That is a $2,500 check, but here is your certificate of appreciation.
thank you very much.
We haven't lost one yet, yeah, exactly. All right, looking right here. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. Congratulations very much.
AC Stutson? All alone too. Oh, goodness. Welcome. Introduce yourself.
I'm AC Stutson. Got lucky enough to get hired in Westminster in 1998 after working a few years up in the mountains of the Vail Police Department, and we were looking for a community that I could bring my son, who had just been born, down, and we raised him in Westminster, and I've been here doing a variety of things since 1998.
Perfect, thank you. AC Stutson started his career at the Vail Police Department in 1993 before coming to Westminster in 98. At Westminster, AC was a detective for 10 years, where he was a member of the Colorado Internet Crimes Action Against Children Task Force and a member of the Adams County Critical Incident Response Team. In addition, AC worked as a patrol officer, field training instructor, crisis hostage negotiator, and was a member of the Special Enforcement Team, SET. AC was promoted to sergeant and was assigned to investigations in August of 2022. He is currently one of the coordinators for the Adams County Critical Incident Response Team. In September of 23, AC was promoted to commander. AC and his wife, Candace, have been married for 30 years. They have one son who is a reporter for a small NPR station in California. Congratulations. Here is your $2,500 check. Give it to your wife, be sure.
Always.
And there's your certificate. Thank you so much. He wants a picture. Next is 35 years.
Would Senior Police Officer Robert Wood join me?
Yay, we've got family.
And go. Let you introduce yourself and family. My name is Rob Wood. I was a senior police officer for the city of Westminster. I came here back in, God, I can't even remember, back September 19th, 1988. Prior to that, I spent almost 5 years up working for the city of Brighton Police Department. Just recently, I decided to the day, hang up my gun belt and park my police car and retire. So I retired on the 19th of September, exactly 35 years to the day of getting hired here at the city of Westminster. So this is my wife, Amy, and my two granddaughters, Brecken and Bristol. They wanted to come tonight to see me get the award. So anyways, thank you.
I'm gonna hand you your plaque and your pen, so I don't drop it while I'm trying to read.
Robert Wood was hired on September 19th, 1988 as a lateral police officer after spending approximately 5 years with the Brighton Police Department. As both the police officer and then senior police officer, Rob held many assignments within the department, including community services, DARE officer, school resource officer, investigations, liquor enforcement detective, as well as crime against persons detective, court-martial professional standards unit, PSU, and finally he spent many years on patrol. Currently Rob is assigned to the PSU conducting background investigations on new applications. During his tenure, Rob has earned many verbal and written commendations for his work and has also received 3 meritorious medals for saving the lives of 3 people on 3 different occasions, 2 being on duty and the other while off duty. Rob's passion is coaching high school football, where he is given the opportunity to coach at Stanley Lake High School, and then head freshman football coach for 10 years. Even though Rob is no longer coaching, he hopes to get back to coaching sometime soon. Rob says the best thing about coaching is being a positive role model for his players and being able to instill positive values and beliefs that will stay the student athlete for the rest of their life. And also because they're Gators, right? I mean, Counselor Emmons would agree with me. So Rob is married to his wife, Amy, for 7 years. Amy works as a conference service manager for the Omni Interlaken Hotel and Resort in Broomfield. Rob has 2 grown children, Jeremy and Rachel. Jeremy is married to his wife, Bridget, and is a major in the United States Marine Corps, currently assigned as an XO of his flight squad at Cherry Point, North Carolina. His daughter Rachel works as an office manager for Camp Little Tooth Pediatric Dental Office in Lafayette, Colorado. Rob has 4 grandchildren, Brecken, Bristol, is it Rhett? Rhett. Yep, and Grant. So Rhett is 6 and Grant is 4, and I think you met these lovely ladies earlier, so. On September 19th of this year, Rob retired from the City of Westminster Police Department after 35 years of dedicated service. Rob said he chose this particular date 35 years ago to the day, which you shared with us. He took the solemn oath to serve and protect the citizens of Westminster and feels the state would be fitting to retire. We thank you for your service.
And Counselor Emmons will give the Law Enforcement Records Personnel Week proclamation.
All right, can I have the chief and any accompanying member from Law Enforcement Personnel Records? Yes, I got the biggest group today.
A great group and a few Halloween spirits.
All right, Chief, I'm going to start with you. If you could all introduce yourself. And Chief, I'm going to have you explain a little bit about what our law enforcement personnel records do for us.
So my name is Norm Hawk, currently the police chief, and it's very proud to be up here with these men and women here today. They do a lot of work for us internally within the police department, but when you come to the police department to get a police records for a car accident, for a criminal report, this is who you deal with via fax, via phone, via email, whatever it is. This is it. This is the group that deals with this, all with smiling faces and very happy to deal with people. The customer service that you provide externally is phenomenal, and I can tell you at 5:30 in the morning when they're looking for police reports, they provide a great internal customer service, and they keep us on our toes. This is where quality control lives within the police department, making sure that reports are coded in the proper manner, making sure that things are getting done in a timely fashion, and holding us to all of the records availability and what those schedules are for every records report, making sure that it's always done and done perfectly. So couldn't be happier to be standing up here with this group, and I will hand it off to Becky, and I'll just have you guys introduce yourselves and the current position that you're in.
My name is Becky Lively, and I'm a police records supervisor.
Gina Olker, I'm a police records technician.
I'm Veronica Ortiz, and I am a police records technician.
Tori King, and I'm a police records technician.
Katie Miller, and guess what? I'm a police records technician in training.
Not only am I also a police records technician, I'm also a Katie.
Kaylin Gilbert, and a police records technician.
Kirk Martine, I'm also a police records technician.
Ann Cloyd, I'm a records supervisor, and in 2 days I will have been here 20 years.
Wow.
My name's Rhoda Kyle, and I am the support service administrator.
Perfect. And Dave Lester, Deputy Chief.
Well, thank you all for what you do. We couldn't do what we do without you. You're another branch of our law enforcement, and so just thank you for managing our records and making sure everything is in tip-top shape. So with that, Whereas law enforcement records personnel serving the city of Westminster have exhibited professionalism, efficiency, and compassion during the performance of their essential duties in the past year, providing a vital service to the community, and whereas law enforcement records personnel are crucial to assisting law enforcement agencies in the identification, pursuit, capture, and processing of suspects, and whereas these professionals continually use their expertise and experience in maintaining criminal justice agency records, statistics, and providing data for improving apprehension strategies, and whereas the efficiency of the qualified and committed personnel who staff law enforcement records is materially influenced by the people's attitude and understanding the importance of work they perform, and whereas also demonstrated is excellent attention to detail with quality control and effective communication with the court community that is crucial to the successful completion of criminal cases. And whereas residents of Westminster are encouraged to recognize our city's law enforcement records personnel for their valuable contributions to our law enforcement community. Now, therefore, I, Nancy McNally, Mayor of the City of Westminster, on behalf of the entire City Council and staff, do hereby proclaim November 6th through the 10th, 2023, to be Law Enforcement Records Personnel Week, and call upon the people of Westminster to join in honoring the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our city and our community safe. Signed this 23rd day of October, 2023. Thank you.
This is a time where I tell all that have been celebrated and gotten some awards or proclamations, it is perfectly okay to leave the meeting. We're going into public comment and then to our regular agenda. And if you'd like to get home and watch a ball game or just relax, now's the time to vacate. The public comment portion of the meeting is an opportunity for the public to communicate with City Council. Each participant is given no more than 5 minutes on any topic they choose. Public comment is not intended to be a back and forth discussion. If there is a public hearing scheduled for the item of which you wish to speak, please hold your comments and testify when the public hearing is called. Tonight, there are 2 public hearings. The first one on official development plan for Uplands Filing 1, Block 2, and the public hearing on the rezoning of a preliminary development plan and an official development plan for the Orchard Estates subdivision. This evening, the city clerk has informed me that we have received 0 emails by the deadline, which have been posted online in agenda packet and forwarded directly to City Council, and 0 voicemails. So, City Clerk, could we have the first speaker, please?
The first speaker is Karen Calavity.
Welcome.
Karen Calavity, 9940 Westcliff Parkway. I got my ballot in the mail like everybody else here, probably. And I was very surprised to see all the ballot measures. And there didn't seem to be any explanation about some of those. I'm a little concerned because a lot of them seem to relate to more powers or more special consideration for the city manager. And it seems as though there's been a little bit of tension already with the powers that the city manager already has without extending more. I just wish there had been an explanation in like the candidates' information or whatever about some of these ballot measures. But, you know, Mark Freitag seems like a pleasant person, but he's also been instrumental in plowing ahead with some controversial projects, specifically the water project, and some other of the public works projects. And I brought up in email, the fact that he does not even live within the boundaries of Westminster. I, as a candidate, have to live within Westminster for at least a year before I can become a city council person, and or even be a candidate for city council. And the position of city manager, where they make very important decisions about financial decisions that have legacy effects and immediate effects. I mean, it seems like that person should live within the boundaries of Westminster. Apparently, you know, he has an apartment here. He lives with his family in Loveland, but some of the decisions that he's part of are very problematic, and I wish there were more explanation about what these ballot measures are about, but they seem to give even more power to Mark Freitag, and I'm a little scared and concerned about the power he already has. So that's my comment for tonight for this portion.
Thank you. The next speaker is John Palmer. The last speaker is Alan Farb.
I saw him. Oh.
Good evening.
Welcome.
This weekend, snow is expected. Daytime temperatures will be in the mid-30s. Nighttime temperatures will plummet to 22 to 23 degrees Fahrenheit, nearly 60 degrees below what it is for today's high. Well, Adams County's Severe Weather Action Plan, or SWAP, is expected to be activated. It looks more and more unpromising that many or most of Westminster's unhoused women and men won't be able to take advantage of the Severe Weather Action Plan because they are not pre-registered. Here is what Almost Home, the service provider, sent today in an email, and I quote, "You must be enrolled with SWAP to be eligible to receive a hotel voucher. To enroll, you must, 1, be enrolled with a SWAP worker in person, show proof, 2, that you are connected to Adams or Broomfield County, 3, sign a form saying you are experiencing literal homelessness, a liability waiver, and a participant agreement. Almost Home will not have a central intake site for Adams County. Vouchers will not be available at Crossroads. Hotel vouchers will be distributed through outreach workers only in Adams County to their active clients. Adams County SWAP participants are encouraged to talk with their case manager about their winter sheltering plan. This severe weather action plan drips with irony and cruelty. In recent council study sessions, and I believe here in this room, you were told the city's continuum of compassion is working well. Yet you also have been informed that the city's 2 homeless navigators, now just 1 homeless navigator, were told to not take on additional clients due to the workload and stress of their job. This council also had approved thousands of dollars more for Westminster motel vouchers for sheltering our unhoused. So just please explain to to the public, please explain to our unhoused just exactly how they will find room at the inn this weekend when they, number one, aren't pre-qualified, and number two, when this city's sole navigator is not supposed to take on additional clients. By the way, I will be out again on Wednesday searching for our unhoused to provide food and water and a few items that I have to give to those who you can't or won't shelter during this expected cold and snowy weekend. And unfortunately, like what I have been able to do within this city and with the help of this city for the past 3.5 years, the city has opted not to provide me with any items, not even blankets, not even sleeping bags, to help dozens of our unhoused be safe. A continuum of compassion, a severe weather action plan, almost home. Well, almost, but not quite. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone that, I know traffic and that we had accident on 36, anybody that didn't get here in time to sign up that wants to speak? Come on down. Welcome.
Do you just want my name? Is that all? Okay, it's Tom Lampo. Okay. It's good to be back in front of Westminster. It's an exciting time to be alive and a part of what is taking place. I want to encourage everyone to view our world through a biblical point of view and also to look for alternative media sources for a different perspective on the headlines and other news. Tonight I'm here to pray for the city and its people. Please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, in Jesus Christ's holy name, we invite you here to the city of Westminster. Thank you for being here. Guide us in all we do. You are ruler of all, including our city. It states in 1 Timothy 6:15b, God, the blessed and only ruler, the King of kings and Lord of lords. No one is above you. No one tells you what to do. No one can force your hand. Your decisions are final. You work all things out for your glory. We are being affected by the spiritual battle that wages on. Your victory is already secure. No one has defeated you yet, and no one will defeat you in the future. Now we wait on you to complete your work. But until that time, our lives are impacted. Be here for us now, as you were with the Israelites as they left Goshen. The Israelites saw the Egyptian army approaching them. They were terrified and started complaining to Moses. In Exodus 14:13-14, it states, Moses answered the people, Do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance of the Lord will bring to you today. The Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. And so it is for us today. We see the evil all around us. We know we need change, but this world is stacked against us. We don't have the financial resources. The media isn't on our side. Our social influence isn't large enough. Our governments have their own agendas. We are almost powerless, except we have you, the undefeated God, with everlasting love. And what you give us is greater than what the enemy has. 1 John 4:4-6 states, You, dear children, are from God and have overcome them, because the one who is in you is greater than the one who is in the world. They are from the world and therefore speak from the viewpoint of the world, and the world listens to them. We are from God, and whoever knows God listens to us. But whoever is not from God does not listen to us. This is how we recognize the spirit of truth and the spirit of falsehood. You are in us. With you we have overcome the evil that surrounds us. We are victorious because of you. Continue to wage war on the evil one for us. Continue to fight for us, because without you there isn't hope, and without you we don't have a future. In your precious name we pray. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you. I did not see anybody else rise up, so that brings us to Deputy City Manager Barbara Opie.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have a formal presentation tonight, but wanted to pass along a few items for you. City Manager Mark Freitag is out tonight caring for his father who had heart surgery just over a week ago. We wish his father the best in his recovery and are grateful that Mr. Freitag can be with him during this transition period. I'd also like to note that in tonight's agenda packet, we have 2 information staff items. Staff reports included update on the downtown consulting contracts, and housing needs assessment update. I'd also like to note that there is a community workshop scheduled for this Wednesday, October 25th, from 5:30 to 7:30 at the MAC. Lastly, I'd like to express appreciation to all the staff, sponsors, volunteers, and vendors who helped make the Westie Fest a wonderful event this past Saturday. We had approximately 42,000 attendees enjoy entertainment and activities throughout the day. We'll have additional statistics to share with you later this week. This is no small undertaking. This event does so much to support our quality of life and sense of community. A special thank you to our Parks, Recreation, and Libraries Department staff, especially Leah Krumpholz, Michaela Hudak, and Lauren Gladue for putting together this wonderful event for our community. With that, thank you very much.
And I think they deserve a big hand. Any questions for Deputy City Manager? Councilor Namella?
This was just in response to the question regarding from the public regarding the ballot measures. And I was just wondering whether we have a better explanation of the ballot measures. I know we had those agenda memos that accompanied the ballot measures. And so I don't know if there's like a date of the agendas that we could offer up to folks so that and just kind of put it on the website, because the website just has the ballot info and doesn't have any expanded.
It is on the election website. The ballot measures are, the questions are all there, and then a link to the study session in which they were discussed, and also a link to the memos.
Okay. Now I'm seeing the little link, but that's good for the community to know too, in case they are looking for that.
Councilor Azadi?
Do we have a response to Mr. Farb's statements around the city not providing supplies for the homeless?
I can certainly look into that information and get back with them. I know that we do gather materials and that we do provide it to our navigators. I'm not certain as to whether they are coordinating with him in those details. So we'll get back with you, Mr. Farb.
That brings us to City Council comments. I just will say the Westie Fest was the best in the West, and it was a fun-filled afternoon. You couldn't ask for better weather. Everything was just perfect. So thank you. All right, moving right along, consent agenda. Do we have a motion for items 8A through E? Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that we approve consent agenda items 8A through 8E.
Councilor Baker?
I would like to have item 8E removed.
Item E, you want moved?
Yeah, 8E.
Okay. Okay, so items 8A through D.
I amend my motion for items 8A through 8D.
Councilor Baker, you going to second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve consent agenda items 8A through D. See no comments. Could we have roll call, please?
Councilor Baker.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott.
Yes.
Councilor Emmons.
Yes.
Councilor Azadi.
Yes.
Mayor McNally.
Yes.
Councilor Nermella.
Yes.
And Councilor Seymour.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
That brings us to item E. Councilor Baker? Okay.
I'll go ahead and put the motion
Okay.
on.
Councilor Seymour?
I move that we pass item 8E, award of 2024 contract with Bloom Floralscapes LLC for landscape maintenance services.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve item 9E. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Baker?
Yeah, I'd like to have a more understandable explanation than what was in the notes, because we did not choose the low bidder, and I found the explanation for not choosing the low bidder to be somewhat deficient, because the explanation in the notes said that you didn't think he had enough personnel and equipment, if I read it properly.
Okay, I'm going to ask Lance Johnson to come and help answer those questions, please.
Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, Lance Johnson, Parks, Golf, and Open Space Manager. So we did a interview of the low bidder. We had them fill out different a questionnaire with multiple questions. They did not meet the requirements that we need for the amount of equipment or staff that they had available to them. And we also went to their references that they provided to us, and those references were less than stellar. So that's the criteria we used to take out the low bid.
Wouldn't it be reasonable that a person who doesn't have enough personnel and equipment would be waiting on, achieving the bid before he got those resources and assets?
Potentially, but if we were going to ask them to take on this contract, they were probably short 75% of the full-time staff they would need to do this contract, or even above that, the seasonal staff they would need, and be able to ramp that up prior to January 1st. I just don't think that would have been a reasonable request of them.
Okay, and we're only talking about a $30,000 difference on a $1.4 million contract, correct?
I will take your word for it here for a second. I will roughly, yes.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Roll call, please.
Counselor Baker.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem Demott.
Yes.
Counselor Emmons.
Yes.
Counselor Azadi.
Yes.
Mayor McNally.
Yes.
Counselor Nermella.
Yes.
And Counselor Seymour.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
That brings us to our first public hearing, the consideration of the official development plan for Uplands Filing 1, Block 2, located at the southeast corner of Lowell Boulevard and Chestnut Lane. I will open the public hearing, and staff, you have presentation? Okay.
Mayor, if I could, before the staff presentation occurs, Dave Frankel, City Attorney, just wanted to ask a few questions for the record. Understand that there was a groundbreaking ceremony for the Uplands project in September, and that I think two of council members were in attendance. So the question I would have would be, Mayor, if you're willing, I'll start with you. Mayor, did you attend the Uplands groundbreaking ceremony in September?
I did.
And can you describe your involvement in that ceremony?
I was a speaker and left right after the groundbreaking, didn't stay for the food and entertainment and all the stuff that was going on because I had another commitment, and that was my second of my 4 meetings that afternoon. So left right after we had broke ground.
And Mayor, while you were at the event, did you have any conversations about pending land development applications?
No, I talked with Governor Polis, and the chair of Westminster Historical Society was sitting there, and I sat and talked at her table until we got started.
And Mayor, tonight, are you able to consider this application without bias or prejudgment?
Yes.
And are you able to base your decision solely on the evidence that's presented tonight after applying the criteria in the Westminster Municipal Code?
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate your answering my questions. And the next questions I'd have would be for Mayor Pro Tem. Mayor Pro Tem, were you in attendance at the Uplands groundbreaking ceremony in September?
I was.
And can you describe your involvement?
I was there as part of the actually moving dirt for the ceremony, and I listened to speeches.
And at the event, Mayor Pro Tem, did you have any conversations about pending land development applications?
No.
And tonight, are you able to consider this application without bias or prejudgment?
Yep.
And are you able to base your decision tonight solely on the evidence that's presented after applying the criteria of the Westminster Municipal Code?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I appreciate your responses.
Okay, it is 7:53, and we'll open the public hearing.
Next slide, please. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, the City Councilors. John McConnell, Interim Planning Manager, here tonight to provide you with the staff's presentation. Next slide, please. A staff agenda memo has been created and tonight's public hearing has been properly noticed. The agenda memo, its associated attachments, tonight's PowerPoint presentation, the public notices published in Westminster Window, the mailed notices, and the posted notices are hereby entered into the public record at this time. The notices of the public hearing were mailed to 1,961 property owners' addresses and one HOA within 1,000 feet of the parcel under consideration tonight. The city has also posted the hearing date and time on its website. Next slide, please. This map shows the location of the subject property outlined in red. This is filing 1, or parcel A, block 2, and also known as planning area A2. And this is the official development plan, which is comprised of 13.9 acres. It's located on the northeast corner of Lowell Boulevard and the future extension of 86th Avenue. Next slide, please. The subject property is zoned Plan Unit Development, or PUD, and designated as mixed-use neighborhood development in the comprehensive plan. The applicant proposes 25 single-family detached homes, 30 paired homes, and 80 townhomes on the 13.9 acre parcel. A 0.6 acre park includes a shade structure and a community garden. The applicant has requested 14 exceptions to standards and requirements with the ODP as outlined in the agenda memo. 10 of the exceptions are proposed to amend specific standards listed in the Uplands Master Official Development Plan, which was approved in 2021. The exceptions are justified by the applicant on sheets 5 and 6 of attachment 2 with the agenda memo. They're also summarized numerically in attachment 4. And I'll point out that 9 of those exceptions are tied to lot dimensional standards. Next slide, please. Section 11.5.15 of the Westminster Municipal Code contains 16 criteria that are to be considered when reviewing ODPs. Several examples of these criteria are that the plans exhibit sound, creative, and efficient planning and design principles. The architectural design of the structures are compatible in terms of shape, color, forms, and material, and existing streets are suitable to carry the traffic. Staff finds that the ODP will generally meet these criteria with the recommended conditions of approval as outlined in the agenda memo and attachments. Next slide, please. Staff recommends that City Council hold a public hearing and approve the ODP subject to the additional conditions listed in the summary of staff recommendation in the agenda memo. Next slide, please.
Mr. McConnell, could you speak closer to the mic, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. It sounded fine to me. I'm sorry.
Raise it up just a little bit.
How's this?
No, just there you go.
How's this?
Yeah.
Oh, my apologies. The Planning Commission reviewed this application on September 12th of 2023 and voted in favor of recommending approval by a vote of 7-0 with the attached conditions. Next slide, please. Staff finds that conditional approval of this application would meet the city's strategic plan priority of quality of life by facilitating new and innovative housing options and providing new publicly accessible park space with this development. So the applicant is with us tonight and does have a presentation to provide to you. And myself and other staff are here tonight if you have any questions for us.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. Thank you very much. My name is Marcus Pockner, and on behalf of the entire team for the Uplands team, we want to thank you for this opportunity to present on A2 tonight. We will go through a presentation tonight. We have about 45 slides. Myself and 2 other speakers, we will very quickly move through that and provide all the detail, and then have our entire team here for questions. Next slide, please. I do want to mention the other speakers. Bonnie Nizelik from Norris Design will be here, and then also Matt Childers from Dreamfinders Homes. And then we do have kind of our experts here as well to answer any questions that you have. Next slide, please. Here is the outline for where we're headed, really just kind of a summary of where the project, the Dreamfinder site. Really want to go through an overall Uplands update. We have tried to be very communicative about the Uplands, kind of a snapshot, so the public and people that may be watching can follow the course of the development and really understand the overall schedule. And then we'll start talking specifically about the neighborhood plan and go into the details of the A2 site. Next slide, please. This is A2. I do want to mention that this is the first time that we've brought to you as City Council an ODP for a site on parcel A. So on the larger site, on the larger parcel, A2, as you can see, is bound by Lowell and Irving Street and between 87th and 86th. We'll go into a lot of detail on why this is the first site that we're bringing forward, but just outline that's the context for this, and very important to think about the kind of the civic corridor just north of this area, really centered at 88th and Lowell, with the schools and the future park that will be just north of this site. Next slide. I'm going to turn it over to Matt Childers for just a moment to do a brief introduction of Dreamfinder Homes. Matt.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, councilors. Thanks for having us back again today. Matt Childers, Dreamfinders Homes, with the applicant. One thing I know that's just been imperative with this project from day one is offering the widest possible spectrum of housing. And with A2, we're excited to be debuting some townhomes as well as paired homes and single family here as well. So we're excited to hit a large spectrum of the single family housing spectrum. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you, Matt. Next slide. Is everybody hearing me okay? We're all right on sound? Excellent. This is, as was described by John, thank you to staff as always, the notice area. We sent notification to about 934 residents. It's always important to understand, particularly with Shaw Heights to the north and west, kind of the way we notify. We really go expand that notice area, and we certainly concur with the city that this is a very important thing to do to provide full notice on the site. Next slide. This is the transition here. We can go ahead and go to the next. That really is the Uplands update. So again, I want to just be sure that what I'm showing you now on the next slide is really kind of an overall Uplands dashboard. It's just helpful to think about that before we transition to the specific neighborhood in front of you. You have seen this before as we have shown this to the public as well. These are the public infrastructure improvements that are being planned. They went through a separate approval process, and this shows the water, the sanitary sewer, and also the storm drainage improvements on Shaw Boulevard. So this really does show, as you can see, most of these are centered on parcel A, and those are going through a separate process, and those improvements will commence shortly. Next slide. This is a legend really for the community to track because it's important to know how this processes work. So I just want to point out a couple of things here. The dark orange here is neighborhoods that are going through the traditional city review process. We call it traditional because that's the way we did do it. So you can see A2, the one that is before you tonight, A4, and then of course B1 was approved by council back in September 11th. So that was the first neighborhood B1 was approved. The lighter orange are actually going through the new process with concept review. So we are going through those neighborhoods. It's of course important to understand how these two processes blend. They're going through a different approval process. I do also want to show on the C parcels other things that are moving forward. We are very excited to be bringing forward in these proposed neighborhoods affordable housing that will be before we hope in the next couple of months. As you can we'll talk about, there are 317 units of affordable housing that will be coming before this body in the coming months. Next slide, please. We are making a transition here. As John mentioned, this is of course an ODP, so site specific. You all understand your process very well. We are having now most of our speakers that have had hundreds of speakers speak in advance and in support of Uplands. We are now going to list them. So we went to them and asked if we could list them as supporters on each of these ODPs. Instead of having larger community groups talk about the specifics, we think it's very important that we continue to engage with the surrounding community and really go through. But this really does show a great list of people that have spoken in organizations, business and community and civic leadership that supports this application. Next slide. Just a couple things here. You've all seen this before. I just want to go ahead and state again, this is directly from the PDP or Master ODP. We are doing all of the public land dedication that has been promised. We are doing right at just over 40 acres between the PLD and the view corridors. You should note, as you see there, A2 is really bounded by two substantial park dedications in the northwest corner, the 11 acres, and then the 10 acres of the central park. Next slide, please. This is again kind of the overall development, but this looks at that kind of fabric, the community fabric that we're bringing in from bike and pedestrian connectivity. This is really the community tissue that will provide really amenities for future residents, but probably most importantly for existing residents to really come into the community the way we interact with them and really blend and do increasing. You'll see on the left-hand side, We mention all of those existing uses that are around the site, the community, the schools. These are the amenities, the trails, the sidewalks that we're bringing in to tie to the neighborhoods. Next slide, please. I do want to mention again, these are being planned as part of the overall infrastructure improvements, but these two specific things actually benefit A2. So Lowell Boulevard, as you know, is being improved. That is the western edge of A2, right? So that is moving forward, but that certainly will benefit this site specific. And then the stormwater runoff that is on this site, of course, is part of that stormwater master plan that will drain to the south of this and ultimately to Shaw Boulevard. Next slide. We had a great suggestion to kind of provide a chart, basically a compliance chart. So I just wanted to walk through this with all of you. What it shows here is what is required in our PDP and MODP, and what we are delivering or what we are bringing in each of these respective neighborhoods. So the first two, I just want to reiterate, PLD absolutely meeting all requirements. Then we are going to have additional affordable housing units than were required. Then we transition for the first time to the A2 neighborhood. And I just want to specifically show what the PDP that you all approved shows should be on A2, and then what we are building. You are seeing that we are complying in every way with the PDP and MODP. We are doing publicly accessible parks. The percentages we are actually exceeding. We are within the gross density limits. We have the same perimeter setbacks. So we are using the PDP and MODP that was before you in December of 21, and that has guided the plan that's before you tonight. Next slide. This is one other thing that I want to show you because it was called out earlier about the exceptions, and we appreciate John kind of going through that. What we just want to show here is why we have some exceptions and where you are going to see those. Bonnie will go into some detail about those 14 exceptions. But I just want to show you that almost all of those are happening in the single-family homes, the single-family detached homes. So you can see the gray is where we comply, right, with the PDP, and then the white is the exception. We thought, you all agreed, that it was prudent to come back to council and actually detail those exceptions. That's why we're going through this process and really going through those exceptions. We believe this leads to much better innovations in planning, much more modern planning, and that's why we'll go through the exceptions with all of you. Next slide. I'm going to transition now to A2, to the neighborhood that is before you tonight. Go ahead, please. This is the comp plan, of course, what guides us. Just a little history on this. You all know the 2013 comp plan had this identified as TMUND, right? That was the plan that was approved for the PDP. Now we have adopted on the next slide the 24 comprehensive plan you all have, and that, of course, is a mixed-use neighborhood. Many of the same guiding underlying uses or, of course, permitted uses are allowed, and we are in full compliance with the guidance that's in the mixed-use neighborhood. Next slide. This is specifically the sheet from our PDP and MODP on this site. You can see it is labeled as a village residential. As John said, it's 13.98 acres. It has a maximum of 143 units. We are actually proposing 135 units on this site. Next slide. I just wanted to talk about a little bit that community outreach. This is actually what we heard from the community specifically about this site, to really look at the friction along Lowell, to try to mirror what is there, the single family homes. So as you can see, we have paired homes that really rest or live on the site and look like a larger lot home. So we are matching that across Lowell. We think that's very important to honor that. We also have a perimeter or kind of a sensitivity zone along Lowell. So really trying to match the single family homes. You see a few of the other things, the implementation of pocket parks. These are things that we heard from Shaw Heights neighbors to really incorporate into this site, and we have done that dutifully because we think they're great elements to the plan. Next slide. Last one for me, this is the public land dedication. I mentioned it, but I just want to show it kind of with the A2 plan there. You see the 11-acre park just to the north, and then the central park just to the east of that site. As you can see, that really does set a lot of the view corridors, the site that you all know so well, and the connectivity to the schools across the street, across Lowell. This is such an important corridor. The reason we're bringing A2 first is to really understand this transition. It really is anchored by these two terrific parks that frame it, but again, those are in separate applications that we'll bring forward to all of you. Next slide. This is now, I'm going to turn it over to Bonnie. She's going to talk about some of the planning elements, and then I'll come back and talk about the approval criteria.
Welcome.
Good evening, Bonnie Nijelik, Norris Design, 1101 Bannock Street, Denver. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you, City Council. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, staff, for your time. As Marcus noted, the public land dedication really sets the stage for this proposed neighborhood, and then kind of going to the next level of design. It's really tying back to those perimeter setbacks that Marcus talked about that were established within both the PDP and the MODP. So all those perimeter setbacks have been met or exceeded with this proposed plan. Next slide. With this neighborhood, we are requesting a total of 135 homes. That includes single-family detached homes, paired homes, and townhomes. Access is provided into this neighborhood along West 87th and West 86th via north-south local street connections between Lowell and Irving. Those local streets are represented here in that dark gray color. All the proposed homes are alley loaded and have front doors and porches fronting those public streets, parks, and open space, helping to create a pedestrian-friendly neighborhood that engages with those public spaces. That alley network is shown in that lighter gray color. Next slide. The neighborhood includes a publicly accessible private park, which is easily accessed by the sidewalk network that runs through and around the proposed neighborhood, and ultimately connects to the perimeter streets and public land dedication. Here you can see all those pedestrian corridors within the neighborhood represented by the yellow and blue dashed lines. Next slide. In addition to the 21 acres of public land dedication, we have a 0.6 acre publicly accessible private park. Next slide. As noted in the master ODP, all the parks within Uplands are themed based on the idea of bringing the inside outside, with park themes inspired by spaces from within homes. This particular design is based on the pantry concept, which focuses on community gathering and creating spaces around planting, harvesting, and cooking. So this is a view looking south across the Pocket Park, which features a large community garden space, a shade structure for formal and informal gatherings, and a variety of passive small seating options located under the tree canopies. It also includes an open lawn for kids to play or set up yard games, dog pickup, and bike amenities, all complemented by a mix of low water use landscape beds and low water native sod blends. Next slide. The south half of the park includes a fenced-in community garden space and sidewalks that wrap around the park and connect to the perimeter streets. Next slide. The proposed neighborhood includes a variety of sustainability features. All homes comply with Energy Star and WaterSense. All homes feature level 2 EV charging. All single-family detached homes with traditional roofs are designed as solar-ready. On the landscape plan, turf is limited to active play areas, covering just 4% of the site compared to the 20% coverage that's allowed in city regulations. The tree lawns consist of low water use shrub material and low water native sod blends instead of high water use standard turf. And the landscape plan is focused on creating pollinator corridors to link the green spaces. Next slide. The proposed homes include a variety of floor plans and elevation styles to provide architectural diversity within the neighborhood. Next slide. First, we have single-family detached homes. These are 3-story homes. There are a total of four floor plans and 3 architectural styles, creating 12 different options to be used on the 25 single-family lots. Each home has at least a 2-car garage, and one plan has a 3-car tandem garage. Next slide. Here you can see the proposed homes fronting the park with front porches and decks, helping to engage and activate the public space. Next slide. Next, we have paired homes. These are 2-story homes, which are also alley loaded with 2-car garages. The paired homes include 3 floor plans and 3 architectural styles, creating 9 different options to be used on the 30 paired home lots. Next slide. The paired homes also face public streets, parks, and open space, and here you can see that low water use landscape plan for the yards and the tree lawn landscape. Next slide. We also have proposed townhomes. These are 2-story homes, also alley loaded with 2-car garages. The townhomes include 3 floor plans and 3 architectural styles, creating 9 different options to be used on the 80 townhome lots. Next slide. And here you can see what they look like along a streetscape. This is specifically West 86 on the south end of the neighborhood. Next slide. As John mentioned, we do have a number of exceptions to city regulations. As Marcus mentioned, these have always been anticipated within Uplands in order to comply with the vision established within our MODP and provided much needed housing within the city. Next slide. The code also supports the need for exceptions. Uplands is zoned PUD and defined here. This zone district is specifically defined to integrate land use and site conditions as a unit, to reflect maximum design freedom, to more fully utilize the physical characteristics of the site through the reduction of lot size and absence of setback and bulk restrictions, to provide for diversification and flexibility in housing types, housing prices, and overall design, and to encourage innovative development. Next slide. Our first exception deals with parking. As you all know, parking is defined in code and requires 2 off-street spaces for all 3 of the home types. Those spaces are provided in every single home via the included 2-car garages. Code also requires an additional 2 driveway spaces for the detached homes and 1 off-street space per 3 paired homes or 3 townhomes. With this ODP, we propose these guest spaces be provided through a combination of off-street surface spaces and on-street parallel spaces. So we are not asking for a reduction in the quantity of parking spaces, but simply allows for these spaces to be provided in a different way. This helps increase housing diversity and improves upon that suburban front-load garage and vehicle-dominated home type that requires full-length driveways. Here on this side, every single, those orange boxes, those are identifying the 2-car parking spaces that are provided with every single home. Next slide. We also have a couple of off-street parking spaces. Those are specifically located adjacent to the pocket park. So families and kids can take their cars and bring all of their accoutrements to the park, make sure they have easy access to that park. Next slide. Here in purple, we add the on-street surface spaces internal to Uplands. So these 3 types, the garages, the surface spaces, and the on-street spaces, meet and exceed the total required parking accounts for the neighborhood. The neighborhood requires 357 spaces. This provides 400 spaces internal to Uplands. Next slide. And then here on the left side of the screen in teal, we do have an additional 14 spaces above that 400 spaces that are provided on the east side of Lowell. Next slide. Next, we have an exception to roof pitch. On the single-family attached paired homes, we're requesting that minor roofs have a 4 and 12 pitch instead of a 5 and 12 pitch. This only applies to covered porches to accommodate egress window requirements above those porches, and to shed roofs on one architectural style, which is the image on the upper left of the screen. We also have exceptions to the master ODP which impact the overall size of the proposed lots. All the perimeter setbacks are met from the PUD. In place of rear decks and private yard areas, Uplands proposes a mix of porches, patios, decks, and side and front yards to meet that same intent through a different application. The more compact alley-loaded homes at Uplands activate the adjacent streets through pedestrian-friendly homes. Additionally, this provides compliance with the approved MODP by meeting specific design standards, including providing home and lot designs that enhance the pedestrian experience through architectural elements, including at-grade or raised porches and patios, building entries, balconies, and stoops, and minimizing the views of the garage from the street. Further, the MODP notes that front setbacks should be studied at site-specific ODPs like this to help form pedestrian-friendly streetscapes. Further, this aligns with the intent of TMUN by minimizing garage visibility, encouraging consistent street frontages, creating a pedestrian-friendly layout that enhances bike and pedestrian safety and street activation. This exception also aligns with citywide goals and policies related to water and housing. Next slide. Finally, we have a couple of exceptions tied to the city's landscape regulations. First, entry median. The city's landscape regulations require a median within the street section. In place of this median, we have designed entry landscaping and monumentation at the main neighborhood entry. This is shown in the upper left image at the southeast corner of Lowell Boulevard and West 87th. This design meets the intent of the regulations. It celebrates and creates that entrance to the community, just using a different form. It also increases the overall landscape area while creating a better living environment for street trees. And it allows for narrower entry roads that better uphold the principles of pedestrian-oriented designs while still complying with fire width and access requirements. The next exception ties to on-lot landscape areas, just for the single-family detached and paired homes. With this exception, we are requesting a minimum landscape percentage of 38% for single-family detached homes and 28% for paired homes. These percentages are based on the maximum allowable building envelope, so actual percentages may be higher. We're actually working to see what we can do to increase those as much as we can. This helps promote responsible water use and more compact homes on smaller lots, providing additional housing options for residents at a relative lower cost than new single-family homes on large lots. This is shown in the upper right image, or upper right corner of the slide. In place of private on-lot landscape area, residents do have great access to the proposed trail and park system within Uplands. As you saw early on, we have the 10-acre park and 11-acre park right next door to this neighborhood. And then next, we are requesting an exception to a landscape regulation connected to the attached homes. We're providing an overall landscape area of approximately 32%, whereas the 40% is required. Again, this allows for more compact homes that engage the street and promote community interaction. It reduces potential irrigation area and also assists in providing compliance with updated fire requirements. Through our very detailed discussions with the fire department, the overall alley pavement widths have increased from the previous city standards, so that reduces the land available for landscape. Next slide. Finally, we are working with staff during this next technical correction review to remove 2 landscape exceptions from the ODP. One relates to retaining wall spacing within the parks, so we are adjusting those wall locations to meet that requirement and remove that exception that has no impact on the actual design of the park. And then we're working with staff to simplify the landscape compliance charts to show we're meeting each of the different required material types. And with that, Marcus is going to walk through our last couple slides.
Terrific. Next slide, please. This is for our standards of approval. You can go ahead and advance. I will say that staff did a terrific job and had a very thorough examination of our approval criteria and how we complied. We also submitted a very long document that went into great detail about meeting the approval criteria. I will particularly call out that the first thing that you look at in an ODP is really to be sure that we comply with the underlying PDP and the guiding documents. If you go to the next slide, again, you've seen this before. It's really our compliance chart that shows what was approved here in December 21 for the PDP and the MODP. This has been our guide, and we are coming in and meeting all of those. So we believe we are in full compliance. If you go to the next slide, again, we are really honored to bring forward this neighborhood in the larger parcel A, the A2. We are very appreciative of the community groups and civic organizations that have joined in support of this application and the Planning Commission that voted in September to unanimously approve it. With that, our team is available for any questions, and we would respectfully request your approval for A2. Thank you.
Thank you. We will go ahead and hear from our public.
That council?
They have it afterwards. Do we have anybody signed up?
Yes, we have John Palmer.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'd like to talk about Uplands. I know it affects the A2 parcel. It starts at the A1 parcel, and actually it starts further north than that. At 88th and Lowell, in the 70s and the 80s, there was a shopping center there, Safeway, Rexall Drug, a dry cleaners, liquor store. Well, it just so happens at that point, the dry cleaners just poured their chemicals out back in the field. Now, currently, if you're familiar with the Skyline Greens project up at 88th and Lowell, a Berkeley development, there are 2 large parcels that they are not able to build on because of groundwater contamination. Now, that has leached over into the A1 property at 88th and Lowell on the Uplands property, which there's been an environmental report. I've seen them both. Phase 1 report was like a phone book, multiple pages talking about the carcinogens in the groundwater. The Phase 2 report was something totally different. In fact, the expert that I had look at the Phase 1 and Phase 2 report can't believe they came from the same test holes. Now, Uplands only ever did 3 test holes on the corner of 88th and Lowell on their property. They didn't bother coming any further south down the west side of that property, being the A1 property that they're giving to the city, the A2 property, the A3 property. The groundwater all drains down to Shaw Boulevard. That's the lowest point of that whole development. Now, again, we're talking carcinogens. We're not talking things that are good for you. We've got kids in the area. We've got schools in the area. I request that we have a third-party independent do an actual study of the environmental issues on that property, not just at 88th and Lowell, but all the way down Lowell to Shaw Boulevard to see exactly what is in the groundwater and do we need to take a look at that. So I'm actually asking if you can maybe hit the brakes on this tonight and look into an official, independent, third-party study of the contamination, because it's above state legal limits. Again, carcinogens. Another problem with this development is going to be the traffic. Traffic on Lowell over the past month has become a total nightmare now with the closure of the Shaw Boulevard cut. It's not uncommon to be sitting at a light for, 10 minutes to try and get up or down the street from 88th and Lowell past the 84th and Lowell because of the no left turn or the impossibility of making left turns. And that's not just the peak traffic hour. This goes on hours at the time in the evening as well as in the morning. I think we need to reevaluate that. It's all a matter of quality of life, especially the carcinogens in the groundwater. Like I say, Phase 1 report, like a phone book. Phase 2 report was like a Reader's Digest version, night and day. And this was from a professional that reviewed both of those reports. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was the last live person I had signed up.
Go ahead and come up. Welcome.
Hello, Karen Calavity. These guys say they're mirroring the structures on the west side of Lowell. I mean, there's no mirroring of the character. These are 3-story structures close together. There's nothing about them that keeps in with the character of the rest of the neighborhood, which is a rezoning problem in the first place. And now they're asking for even more exceptions than they got to get this ODP through in the first place. You know, they're taking out more and more landscaping so they can have more and more roads and sidewalks, and it's all about pedestrian friendly whatever. It's like, I don't even know where people are going to end up walking to. What's worth walking to in this neighborhood? There's a little teeny park. It's just an excuse, you know, semantics to say, oh, we're saving water, we're, you know, pedestrian oriented. This is just a bunch of concrete, asphalt, 3-story buildings that don't mirror the integrity or the character of the space at all. And it's it's taking out an area of Westminster that actually has some climate resiliency characteristics in the form of open land, receptive, porous land that will receive water and sequester carbon. And this does nothing to sequester carbon. It's but I mean, they keep on talking about how they're meeting the intention. It's like it's the intention they made up in the first place to get the project through. And exception after exception. And you guys keep on granting these exceptions when they already got an exception just to get the project approved in the first place. I just find it appalling. I really find it appalling.
Thank you.
We do have 4 voicemails.
Hello, my name is Sean. I live in Westminster and want to call today to encourage you all to support the A2 project before you in Westminster. I encourage you to support this application before tonight because it's important to support our businesses and workers alike. I still think the plan is well set out with a diverse set of products that appeal to the different demographics. The developer has committed to their promises, and I encourage you to support this today. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hello, my name is John Boo. I wanted to share my thoughts on the Uplands project tonight. I'm a young professional living in an apartment right now and would love to own a home someday. With insane prices, increased interest rates, and no supply, it's been really hard for people like me, especially harder with interest rates. I think this project is really good, and the developers have committed to everything that they've committed to. So with that, I encourage your support for this project before you today. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Robert Tomez, and I currently live in Westminster, just north of this project. I believe the Uplands project is right for this area, and to be honest, I'd love to own a home someday. This project has been committed to the promises made, and I'm excited to see it come to fruition. So please support this project for you today. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Cynthia Pedersen, and I hope to outline some of my concerns about the planned developments. First, concerns about traffic. I understand CDOT has not approved a traffic plan for Uplands. Currently, there are already traffic jams in the area with the recent closure of a road for construction, and many instances have been observed of frustrated drivers turning left on red lights at the intersection of 84th and Lowell. Second, concerns about lack of clear flood mitigation plans approved by FEMA. Several Shaw Heights roads are already in a terrible state of disrepair and have been neglected. Potential flooding and more traffic will make this issue worse. Third, the argument regarding the need for more new housing belies attempts by industry and government programs to keep prices artificially high through several mechanisms, and I will describe them here. First, generous cash grants administered in various states to help with down payments and other costs. 2, interest rate buy-down tactics whereby sellers pay a large amount of money up front to lower the interest rate for the buyers for 2 years so they can afford to move in, rather than lowering the cost of the home such that the price recorded does not reflect this discount, and thus property taxes, average home prices, and insurance rates remain higher. Third, rental homes, possibly many owned by private equity, are languishing as empty for months on end, to include some homes in the area surrounding the Uplands development, Westminster and Denver metro area. It's often being observed across the U.S. that the number of vacant homes is 10 times the number of homes for sale. Well, some of these are vacation homes, depending on the location. Many are not. Many homes in our metro area have been sitting on the market for quite a while, and significant price reductions are happening in some cases. there are major disconnects regarding market gaming, pricing, and affordability. 4, the number of multi-unit construction projects has soared and is currently peaking with responses in many large cities such as Nashville and Phoenix, with 25% rent reduction price incentives. 5, home construction builders in some areas of the U.S. are unable to sell their inventory and have now resorted to renting second phase built homes with rents substantially lower than mortgages of identical homes sold in the first phase. This is just one example of an inversion of the traditional cost to rent versus cost to own a home. 6, upland development planning involves a higher property tax to cover the build-out area, and this is not sustainable given the lack of affordability of housing due to soaring insurance and property taxes already happening. Will the burden fall on taxpayers to bail out this mess, and will taxpayers be on the hook through long-term planning for P3 corporate impact investments, which has been mobilizing rapidly to expand into housing? Also, there are some concerns about toxic chemicals in the area that might spread with construction projects. And finally, it's just terrible for the citizens of South Westminster to lose a long treasured area of open space that should have been converted into a park to encourage community pride and serve as a location to engage in healthy activities close to home, much like the flagship park at 104th and a far more affluent area, in contrast to the working class families that dominate South Westminster, where I live. As members of City Council and other representatives and servants of our citizenry, your approval of an unwise and unaffordable and unsafe project should not be taken lightly in a mad dash to transform an area. Just as ignorance of the law is not an acceptable defense of breaking the law, future claims of ignorance of harms that will come to our community should not hold when it's clear many of us have and are still speaking out against the Uplands project with solid evidence of likely harms and widespread community disapproval. This aggregate of public input may serve as a notice of personal liability to those involved. Please reconsider. Thank you very much.
Thank you. City Council questions. Councilor Baker?
Thank you. These are for the developer. Okay. When and how much of Lowell are you going to do?
Sure. Thank you, Councilor Baker. I'm going to look to our team, okay? And I do want to separate two things. The infrastructure map that I showed, the infrastructure improvements, that is not part of the application of A2 that is before you today. The infrastructure improvements that include Lowell, sir, so to your question, are in a separate approval process that is going through its final city approvals right now, and with the other agencies like CDOT. So I'll turn to our team, sir, when that will be approved or when we anticipate that, but that's the process that is going through. We have all seen the Lowell improvement plans, but again, that is going through a separate approval. What I did mention, sir, and you're absolutely right, it does benefit this site, if you will, right? Our western edge of A2 is Lowell, so those improvements will happen. As you know today, the east side of Lowell is gravel. It does not have any parking, so we will now have two-way, we'll have bicycle lanes on each side of the road, a 10-foot multi-use trail, concrete multi-use trail, and all of that will be built into the uplands. So the roadway doesn't change. We're building those amenities into our site. So now I'll answer specifically on timing. We'll have our engineer come forward.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. Ryan Littleton with HR Green. We're the civil engineer, 5613 DTC Parkway. Lowell Boulevard, like Marcus said, is part of the larger infrastructure package, and the design of Lowell, the improvements of Lowell, extend from Bradburn Boulevard on the south north to 88th Avenue. So that entire stretch from Bradburn to 88th will be improved to its ultimate configuration. As far as timing goes, Uplands is committed as soon as the plans get approved. They are ready to go to construction on all those infrastructure improvements.
Well, my question is aren't we putting the cart before the horse? Shouldn't we have the street done before we start doing the internal things? Engineer, you can't answer this. The other guy has to.
Oh, no, you're certainly. I'm happy to answer. I'm sure either one of us could answer. Yes, sir, there are conditions that go through this process, so it's dependent on some of those improvements as well. So, sir, that's how it works. We wouldn't be able to move forward on this until that infrastructure moves forward. So that is part of the process. So no, we don't believe that we're going before that. As you know, the B1 improvements, there are some pieces of Lowell that actually tie to the B1 project that has already been approved. That's in the normal planning process as well.
So let me get this straight. Are you saying we don't need to approve this? We can really table this well until the Lowell improvements are done?
No, sir. I said the exact opposite. I believe that this is in accordance with your process. It is through the process and staff recommendations that this is the proper process to go through. So no, we believe that this is fully appropriate. We meet the approval criteria, and we believe we could vote on it tonight if you all are willing to do so.
Okay, my next question is, you're asking for exceptions to modified rules that were passed in December of 2021, correct?
That is correct, sir.
Okay. So in 2021, did you intend to follow those rules and found to change them, or did you always intend that you would not follow the rules of December
No, sir.
2021?
As we went through, and Bonnie went into great detail, I'm sorry if I cut you off right at the end, my apologies, is the items that were moved in 2021 were from the underlying TMUN standards. So those actually go back to 2007 and 2008 standards, very specific. They were actually built for large lot homes, which are the exact example of what doesn't lead to sustainability, to practices, to a more kind of innovative design. So those are actually based on very old designs and housing. So we are actually bringing innovation forward. So we certainly wanted to honor all of TMUN. That was our agreement to bring in all those requirements. And specifically, at council's request, bring our ODP back and go through those details. So we are actually complying specifically what we promised to you in December of 21, and that's why we're dutifully walking through the exceptions.
So I guess I'm confused.
Sure.
Are you asking for exceptions to rules that you agreed to in December of 2021?
Sure. Yeah, go right.
Bonnie Najelic, Norris Design. Perhaps I can walk through that in a little bit more detail. When we brought forward both the PDP and the master ODP in December of 2021, we specifically said that we would be asking for exceptions at the site-specific ODPs. We wanted to be able to show everyone what the lots look like, what the homes look like, in order to request those exceptions. We didn't want to ask for just blanket setback exceptions in December of 2021 without being able to show those very site-specific details. So we took the intent of TMUND. One of Marcus's original slides showed how many of those very specific standards we are complying with, but we need to have that flexibility in order to meet the goals of both Uplands and the city as far as providing housing diversity and lower water use landscape plans.
Okay, thank you. You answered the question. My next question is for our staff. How much of the city of Westminster has a public street going to the driveway of a residence?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay.
The answer would lie in I suppose the number of traditional front-loaded housing stock that we have in the city, but I don't know what percentage that is.
Okay. Well, I've done a lot of walking around the city. I figure it's got to be 98, 99%.
It is a high percentage. Neo-traditional neighborhoods are really limited to Bradburn Village, Highland Village, Uplands moving forward.
Okay. So the 98% of the city or 99% of the city that has a public street going to a residence's driveway, was that sound design principles and planning?
I believe it was for the time. It's created a lot of great neighborhoods. As you move forward in time, though, with housing affordability, attainability, market pricing, and really the housing crisis that we're in, I I think that's the intent of this applicant, is to try to address those things by reducing lot sizes and making more compact development. So I think staff is open to the ideas that they're presenting as a solution moving forward.
Okay, because I see a huge problem when we no longer have public access to a homeowner's private property, because all this access is through a private alleyway, correct?
They do have lot frontage on the street. They don't have vehicular access from a public way. They would have vehicular access through the alley system.
Right, and isn't that going to be maintained by the homeowners association? So isn't in the future, the cost of basically road maintenance, instead of being borne by the public street in the city, it's going to be borne completely by those private landowners?
If it's a private alley, it would be the maintenance responsibility of the homeowners association,
Right.
ultimately the residents.
So in other words, this is almost like a gated, really, I mean, the community without the gate, without the security and safety of a gate. No thoughts on it, okay.
No thoughts on it.
That's fine. Those are my questions, thank you.
Councilor Numella?
I'll just weigh in on that one question regarding the design of neighborhoods. I mean, cities were built with alley-loaded homes for really most of time. And then only, in the latter half of the 20th century did we get really more into doing, front-loaded garages. So I can't say that that's, yes, at the time when a lot of our neighborhoods were built, that was the trend of the time. I wouldn't say it's representative of great planning principles. And you can see that as we are continuing to evolve, we have a lot of more neo-traditional and traditional style home neighborhoods that are being developed. So I just wanted to say that. I have a couple of questions for staff. With respect to, and they're kind of about Lowell and the improvements, for Lowell overall, and this might also need the developer to answer, I think Councilor Baker had a good question regarding the timing and the phasing of the Lowell improvements. Is that all happening? Are we trying to do that all in one fell swoop, or are we doing it in stages with development?
I'd like to refer that question to
Yeah.
the applicant.
Good evening, councilors. Chad Ellington, representing the Uplands team. To answer the question about Lowell development and all of the spine infrastructure, the master infrastructure it's often referred to as, all of that has to go in before any homes can be built. So this is like step 2 of your process with an official ODP. Then we go back through with staff on detailed construction documents, plat, et cetera, before we can even move dirt in this particular ODP area. And all the conditions of approval that are before you tonight include prohibitions of building homes before all the infrastructure is in place.
Okay, that wasn't my question.
Okay, sorry.
So I'll try and, but that's okay, because maybe I didn't ask it well enough. The improvements along Lowell, are you trying to do them all at once? Once you have all of your entitlements and approvals that you want to have, and then you start moving dirt and doing things, is Lowell going to be, is that length of Lowell between Bradburn and 88th going to be done in at one time?
It's one phase.
Okay.
One phase will have multiple parts to it. It can't all be like closed off and done completely. We'll have requirements. We're working with city traffic to make sure we keep lanes open. Obviously, access to homes come directly off Lowell, so there's no, unfortunately, unlike the roads internal to the street, we can build those all at once in the single phase. We'll have to phase traffic control, et cetera, but it all is one effort. It's in one set of construction documents. It's one inspection process with the city and one warranty period with the city for the Lowell improvements. So yes, from Bradburn to 88th, all those improvements will be done once with phases of traffic control.
I'm just curious with respect to that, the Irving Street connection that goes through the development, would you have that open by the time you start on Lowell so that there's some alternative route?
We are, I don't know if Ryan has a better answer than this today. We've been working through phasing which improvements with staff should go in what order with this master construction document approval process. We've talked about anything and everything. It all, in our minds, has to be kind of done relatively back to back. And so we're open to those ideas. I don't know that that's been specifically discussed.
Okay, I would just encourage us to think about how we can make it a little bit easier on the residents in this area. To that question, just one more question on the improvements. Are we undergrounding the overhead wires on the west side of Lowell with the improvements?
Yes.
Cool, okay. The west.
West side, no.
Oh. That's too bad. On the, where did my other street one go? So a couple of other things. One, I am concerned about, hearing that we do have already some traffic concerns on Lowell with the closing of Shaw, and I know we talked about with that having staff monitor what the impact to traffic would be, and that we would have kind of a iterative process. So maybe that's a bit of an aside, but I just wanted to acknowledge that and perhaps get some feedback from staff on what our response is and how we're actually monitoring that closure of Shaw. Back to this project.
If Heath Klein were here, I think he'd be able to answer that they have been monitoring that. I don't know the results or anything like that, but that is absolutely being done. We've been coordinating with them on a weekly meeting, and we hear that staff is out there watching peak hours and full-time traffic backups, et cetera, or to address those concerns. So it's kind of a question I defer to Heath Klein.
Yeah, since he's not here. I will wait for a response on that. Okay, and then the last thing for the development team is I'm noticing as these projects are going to be coming through and are coming through, we're not really highlighting the pedestrian crossings and connectivity outside of these projects. And so, like, where would a new pedestrian, demarcated, pedestrian crossing be going on, particularly around Lowell, but also on all the perimeter streets of these projects?
Sure, and Councilor Nermella, there was a slide early on, I'm sorry I don't have it, that shows bicycle and pedestrian connectivity. I think this would answer the question if we showed it. I'm looking to see what slide that is here. Pardon? 24, slide 24 perhaps. They renumber them so we can't quite see from our packet. There you go. So, Councilor, I think this does show the bicycle and pedestrian connectivity. It shows it from an overall site, right, on parcel A itself. But you see A2, and then it goes through the different sidewalks, the kind of connective tissue that is there. But I think it's a really good point. We may actually just overlay as we move forward, right, what that pedestrian connectivity is around each of these sites, right? Because you just see it in kind of the abstract here. So we'll be sure and put more detail on the site itself.
Thank you. I'm sorry I missed that. It's just not in the drawings, so as I look at the other graphics.
Yeah, and this is, and I'll just say, one of the things we kind of struggle with, and it was from some of the questions tonight, which have been very fair, that kind of master utility and infrastructure plan. We plan so much of that, right, for the overall site, and then we look at these individual neighborhoods. So we'll do a better job of showing that specifically on these neighborhoods.
Okay, thank you. One last question for the developer, then I have one last question for the staff. Can you speak to the environmental analysis that's been done for the site?
Sure, I'll be happy to give kind of an answer about it. I want to be clear that, and I appreciate the gentleman who spoke about it bringing it up. There have been some analysis, the studies that have been done in accordance with the regulatory agency, which all of you know that's a state regulatory agency. There's been a phase 1 and phase 2 on the A1 site, so not the area here, they do a very traditional process where they do findings and then recommendations. So the findings were that there were higher levels of a VOC, which is a type of organic compound. So they identified some higher levels of a VOC, which is actually very common when they go through these processes. And then they make recommendations about what should be done. There were 2 recommendations that were in the report for this site. It was if there are buildings to be built on A1, they should have some type of a vapor mitigation process, right, for a building. That's probably very similar to like a radon system that we all think of, right? So a vapor mitigation, if there is a building that will be built on A1, that is recommended. If there is not, then there is no further action is what is recommended, or mediation or mitigation. So that is the process we are working through right now. We will continue to go through that, and certainly we will comply with all findings and recommendations on the site.
How does that play into, isn't this A2?
A2. I don't believe it has any, I'll turn to our team, it doesn't have any parts or parcels of A2 at all. That was suggested by the speaker. That is not connected at all to A2. And again, there were no recommendations about off-site. That was all related to parcel A1.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
One last question for staff. I'm just curious to know how we're tracking as these projects are coming in. I know it's been highlighted that there are some affordable projects that are coming down the pike here. Just curious how we're planning to manage tracking, the number of market units versus affordable and the delivery of the affordable in accordance with the PDP.
So the applicant is producing all of the required affordable units on parcel C, and that's across Federal Boulevard, and that's that kind of inverted C-shaped parcel. And so all of the required affordable units in the PDP are going to be on that parcel. And 2 or possibly more different developments on that site.
Oh, it's sad that they're all located in one spot.
It doesn't preclude them from adding affordable units on other parcels. I don't know that that's their intent, though, and they have been clear about parcel C, though. And we are working on applications for parcel C that you'll see eventually.
Well, to the applicant, I would love to see more integration, particularly that site is the least connected, and they're more likely to not have cars and vehicles. So it doesn't quite fit with our vision in the city and where we've located affordable before. So that's just disappointing, and I would like to see some thought put into the location and the accessibility to the rest of what we're building along here.
Councillor Emmons? Oh, sorry.
No, please, I just want to note it. I thank you very much for the comment. We'll certainly come back and talk about those. Those are 2 active applications that are going through the process that are coming forward. We also will have other sites. So I understand that's one of the challenges we have when we kind of have multiple processes going on, but we certainly appreciate the comment.
Councillor Emmons?
I've been on the construction side with government projects. They all require environmental impact statement. Is that similar on the private side?
Ryan, do you want to go through that? It is a very similar process. It is all regulated by the state. I know you know that process very well. You have to go through the regulatory agencies, and they actually do what they ask for is there's certain studies or the requirements. That happens on almost every site, what is required, and if there are findings on a phase 1, then it would trigger a phase 2 and go through all of that. So we are going through the exact same process that we would go through on any other site, and they did have findings, and they made specific recommendations on how to address those findings.
Okay, and that's on each of the parcels, A1, A2, A3, anything that we're touching, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, thank you. For parking, we mentioned that there would be areas for the park and then area on the south side for the homes. Are we going to have any signage indicating that it's for parking and not for residential parking? Because I can see residential parking in that area
we can definitely take a look at that as part of our construction drawings for this neighborhood.
Okay, that would be appreciated because I feel like with such limited and tight parking as is, that I think that would be an excellent addition to it. For just as a curiosity, do any of these residential units have basements?
There are no planned basements, no.
Okay. And then my last question is on your compliance slide, it's confusing because we were talking about SFA and SFD, and it shows that we have both SFAs on what's provided. So I just want to clarify and confirm that we have 25 SFDs.
I am so sorry. You have, I think, found, I'm not going to challenge everybody to find more typos, but you have found one of them. We spent a lot of time working for that. That second one on the provided where it says 25, that should be SFD.
Okay, I just want to confirm.
And so that is correct, yes.
Okay.
So we are in full compliance. You are correct, Counselor. The 65 and the 35, that's a typo, so the second one should be SFD.
Okay, perfect. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Councilor Seymour.
I have a huge big picture uplands, and this is going to be a wag, I understand. Approximately how many trees are we going to have on this site?
I'm going to turn to get you a real answer on that, so let's get an answer.
I saw her take a deep breath.
I don't know how to do that math, but what I'm going to do for you is tell you how many I think we have on this specific neighborhood. I believe we have 207 trees just within this A2 neighborhood. So rough math, if we have 8 neighborhoods just in parcel A, we're probably exceeding 1,600, and then I'm not going to fathom a guess at the other 2 neighborhoods, but I hope that gives you enough.
Yeah, that gives perspective for the size. Thank you.
Yep.
I just have a question to staff. Is there a reason why we didn't have them underground the utilities?
Undergrounding of the utilities is required by the code on the street side that's adjacent to the development. So I think they were referring to not undergrounding across Lowell on the western side, but they will be undergrounding. Well, there are no utilities above ground on parcel A,
Yeah.
but where there are adjacent to, they would be undergrounding.
Okay. Any other questions? It is 9. Councilor Baker?
So if I understood the answer on the environmental, you have drilled test holes to test for volatile organic compounds on A2?
Will you answer, sir?
We have done a phase 1 on the entire property. The phase 1 identified one area in A1 that required further research because of its adjacency to previous uses. That was where the phase 2 was conducted, and to my knowledge, that's all that's been reviewed under the phase 2 process.
Okay, so we can't say if there's been a test hole drilled on parcel A2? Only on A1?
The phase 1 only recommended holes be drilled on A1.
Okay.
In other words, the phase 1 on A2 is clean.
Well, we don't know it's clean because we didn't drill a hole there.
It's clean because the phase 1 process said it, under this criteria that they evaluate adjacent previous uses, the distances away, et cetera. They have criteria for determining that through ASTM standards and things that are above my head. But that is the purpose of a phase 1, is to determine whether a phase 2 is required.
Thank you.
See no other questions. It is 9:03, and I will close the public hearing. And do we have a motion? Councilor Seymour?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to approve the official development plan for Uplands Filing 1, Block 2, located at the southwest corner of Lowell Boulevard and Chestnut Lane, subject to the conditions set forth in the summary of staff recommendations herein. This recommendation is based on the finding that the official development plan generally complies with the criteria section 11-5-15 of the Westminster Municipal Code.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve item 11A7. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Baker?
Yes, I move to really table this motion because there's no urgency in time until the infrastructure of streets gets done.
Is there a second? Seeing no second, that still brings us to our motion. Is there any further comments? Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem DeMott.
Yes.
Councilor Emmons.
Yes.
Councilor Azadi.
Yes.
Mayor McNally.
Yes.
Councilor Nermella.
Yes.
Councilor Seymour.
Yes.
And Councilor Baker.
No.
The motion passes on a 6-1 vote.
Does council want to proceed with the next hearing, or do you need a break? Are we good? All right. That brings us to our next public hearing and first reading of Councilor's Bill number 53. It's 9:04. I will open the public hearing, and we have a staff presentation.
All right, good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and City Councilors. John McConnell here again with the staff's presentation. Next slide, please. Staff agenda memo has been created and tonight's public hearing has been properly noticed. The agenda memo, its associated attachments, tonight's PowerPoint presentation, the public notices published in the Westminster window, the mailed notices, and the posted notices are hereby entered into the public record at this time. The notices of the public hearing were mailed to 615 property owners and addresses and 5 HOAs within 1,000 feet of the parcels under consideration tonight. The city has also posted the hearing date and time on its website. Next slide, please. Here's a map showing the location of the Orchard Estates property. The parcels are outlined in red. The property is located at 3700 West 104th Avenue and is currently occupied by one single-family dwelling and accessory structures. Next slide, please. The applications propose a rezoning from O1 Open District to Planned Unit Development, PUD. You'll notice that all of the surrounding properties are already zoned PUD. PUD zoning is required for any property over 2 acres in size that is seeking to rezone. Next slide, please. If approved, the preliminary development plan and official development plan will facilitate the subdivision of the property into 19 single-family custom home lots. 18 of those lots will be for new single-family homes. The existing home would remain on one new lot. The single vehicular access point for the development will be on West 103rd Avenue. No vehicular access is planned on West 104th Avenue, and all existing access points to this street will be removed with this development. The plan also includes an HOA-owned detention pond and private park. Next slide, please. Section 11.5.14 of the Westminster Municipal Code contains 10 criteria that are to be considered when reviewing rezonings and preliminary development plans. Staff finds that the rezoning and the preliminary development plan generally meet these criteria as outlined in the agenda memo. Several examples of these criteria are that the PDP is compatible and harmonious with existing public and private development in the surrounding area. Streets, driveways, access points, and turning movements are designed in a safe and convenient manner, and that the PDP will not preclude future public land dedications. For those selected example criteria, staff finds that the PDP is compatible with existing developments in the surrounding area, and that the access point is designed in a safe and convenient manner, and that the PDP will not preclude future land dedications. Next slide, please. Section 11.5.15 of the Westminster Municipal Code contains 16 criteria that are to be considered when reviewing official development plans. Staff finds that the official development plan generally meets these criteria as outlined in the agenda memo. Several examples of these criteria are that the plan exhibits sound, creative, or efficient planning and design principles. The architectural design of the structure is compatible in terms of shape, color, forms, and material, and existing streets are suitable to carry the traffic. For those selected example criteria, staff finds that the ODP exhibits sound planning by allowing for compatible infill development, that the ODP includes specific design standards regarding architectural for the custom homes, and that the surrounding road network can accommodate the additional 179 new daily trips generated by the development. Next slide, please. Staff recommends that City Council hold a public hearing and approve the rezoning, PDP, and ODP for this application. Next slide, please. The Planning Commission unanimously voted to recommend City Council approve the rezoning, PDP, and ODP via a vote of 7-0. The Planning Commission meeting minutes from its September 12th public hearing are provided in attachment 6. Next slide, please. Staff finds that the approval of these applications would meet the city's strategic plan priority of quality of life by facilitating desirable and compatible infill development within the city's existing residential neighborhood fabric. The applicants with us tonight, they have a presentation to provide to the City Council, and of course, staff is here to answer any questions that you may have from us.
Thank you.
That's awesome. There you go. Thanks a lot.
Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Sean Krieger. I'm a civil project engineer with DCI Engineering, and I'm here with Lloyd Donnelly and Chuck Haig, and we would first like to just voice our appreciation for letting us be here and giving this presentation tonight. So we're seeking your approval for the rezoning and the PDP and ODP for Orchard Estates. Next slide. I have just a short presentation tonight. It'll cover the site location, which John's already touched on, and the subdivision overview. All our requested PUD exceptions, and then open it up for any questions or comments. Next slide. So as John was saying, the project is located at 3700 West 104th Avenue. The parcel of land is approximately a half mile east of Sheridan Boulevard on 104th. Next slide. The site is currently occupied by an existing two-story house with an attached garage. There is an in-ground swimming pool with the pool house to the south of the existing house. Along the north property line, which is to the left on this slide, is 104th Avenue. 103rd Avenue is along the southern property line, and the winding subdivision is to the east and the west. The site is currently covered with native grass. It also has large evergreen and deciduous trees around the house and along the perimeter of the property. There is currently an asphalt drive from 104th Avenue to the existing house. Next slide. The proposed project description. The proposed development consists of two parcels that total 7.7 acres. We are seeking your approval to rezone the parcels from O1 open space to PUD planned unit development. We are also requesting your approval for a new preliminary development plan and official development plan. The property will be subdivided into 19 lots. The lot sizes range from 10,200 square feet to 17,000 square feet, which is slightly larger in size than the surrounding developments. The project includes removal of the existing 5-foot wide sidewalk along 104th, replacing it with an 8-foot wide sidewalk to comply with the city's bicycle master plan for 104th Avenue. 2 existing drive cuts will also be removed. A proposed 20,000 square foot private park area is centrally located. The park area is 6% of the total property, which exceeds the required 4%. The larger park provides an enhanced community space with a basketball half court, pedestrian pathway, and park benches. This will be a great place to gather and promote a true community atmosphere. The park also provides an emergency access drive, which will be explained later in the presentation. The PDP and ODP propose a single access point onto 103rd Avenue. A 10-foot wide pedestrian walk between lots 6 and 7 will also be provided to connect to 104th Avenue. Next slide. Once the streets and utilities are built, each lot will be sold individually. The custom or semi-custom homes will be required to meet city requirements for the zoning and will be built within the dedicated setbacks. Next slide. Along with the standard city requirements for each home, there will be additional design features required. Half of the new homes are required to have side-loaded garages, along with 50 square feet of additional storage in the garages. Each home must have functioning porches and patios. Each home will be pre-wired for solar systems. Garages will be pre-wired for future electric vehicle charging systems, and 10% of the garages will be required to include those vehicle charging systems. Next slide, please. While planning the project, our intent was to create a subdivision that looked and felt as though it was part of the original Winding subdivision. As a result of this effort and the size of the project, some of the current design standards were unattainable. We are asking for 8 PUD exceptions. The city requires 3,218 design elective points. Many of the design elective points were developed for much larger projects and greatly improved those projects. Unfortunately, many of those electives would not have the same benefit or functional effects as originally intended on a project of this size. We have proposed 2,700 elective points. This is 84% of the required points. After meticulously working through the available electives with the city planner, we have employed electives that would provide an enhancing element or add an aesthetic quality beyond the standard design. The proposed entrance to the project does not include the city-required landscaped island. Due to the required water main loop through the subdivision, Public Works and Utility does not support an island where 2 water mains will be entering and leaving through the entrance. The plans do not provide shade trees in the tree lawn behind the attached sidewalks. The proposed streetscape matches the neighboring streets. The resulting tree lawn behind the attached walks is a little more than 3.5 feet, which is not quite large enough to plant trees. To offset this exception, the proposed ODP requires new homeowners to plant a minimum of 3 trees and 20 shrubs in the front yards. Next slide. Sticking with the theme of blending in with the neighboring subdivisions, we propose 80-foot diameter cul-de-sacs. The city standard is 96-foot diameter cul-de-sacs, which accommodate the new larger fire apparatus. In order to conform to these larger fire trucks, we have provided a 20-foot wide emergency access through the park connecting the two cul-de-sacs, which will give the fire department unobstructed access throughout the site. This additional access drive has been reviewed and approved by City of Westminster Fire Department. Our plans propose a 60-foot setback from 104th Avenue right-of-way in place of the standard 100-foot setback. The existing homes along 104th from Sheridan to Lowell were built to the 60-foot setback. We will be matching the existing setbacks along 104th. We are also asking for exception to a 6-foot tall berm within that setback. In an effort to blend with the adjacent properties, we have provided a landscape area that does not include the 6-foot tall berm. The proposed landscaped area within the setback will match the neighboring landscaping along 104th. A new 6-foot tall fence will also be installed within this setback. Next slide. And finally, we would also like to request an exception to the required detached walks with a 6-foot wide tree line in a 57-foot wide right-of-way street section. The adjacent subdivision has 53-foot wide street sections with attached walks and no tree lines. Our proposed design includes a 53-foot wide right-of-way with a 3.5-foot landscaping strip behind the attached sidewalk. We are also proposing a modified 45-foot street section with parking along one side for a short distance along Osceola Street. This concludes our presentation. We greatly appreciate your time and would respectfully ask for your approval for the rezone preliminary and official development plans of Orchard Estates. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have 3 people signed up to speak.
Okay.
The first speaker is Wes Mortensen.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you for welcoming me. I live directly across the street from this new development that we're talking about tonight, along with, I got one neighbor here with me that we rode over together. Our biggest concern, and it looks like they're gonna have really nice houses that we're hoping will help, you know, the whole housing in that area as far as the values. But the entrance is directly across the street from our cul-de-sac. And we've lived there, I have, at least for the last 27 years, and it's been quiet, nice, no traffic. Now we're gonna add 19 homes that are gonna come in and out, and the only way they can come in and out is right straight across from our cul-de-sac. So that traffic coming in and out every day, I mean, we're talking, you know, everybody's got 2 cars, some people got 3 cars, and then you got UPS, you got the post office, you got all these deliveries in and out of there, and the city people in and out of there. It's gonna be a lot of traffic, I know, especially for our cul-de-sac. Now, the people down that are not there, they won't see it because they come either off of Perry or off of Lowell. So for this subdivision, they're gonna have to come in to our subdivision to get to their subdivision. And that's the only way you can get in there. And our big concern is the traffic, and is there gonna be more parking along 103rd in front of our cul-de-sac, which right now, nobody parks over there. And then, is there any way that they can look at this and have the entrance off of 104th? I know all the housing that's right next to the golf course on the north side of 104th, they come in on 104th. That's the way that traffic moves in there, because then you got the golf course there. So we're saying if any way they could look at refixing that entrance to where they come in on 104th, and then they just have that solid fence all the way along 103rd, because they're not part of our subdivision. They're gonna have their park, their pickleball, their basketball, all that stuff. They can come in off of 104th, and then we won't have all that traffic coming in and out of our subdivision and right next to our houses right there. I live right straight across in the cul-de-sac. My friends and neighbors are right to the left of me, and then the other people are right there, right where that driveway is gonna be. And that is really a huge one of my concerns. I mean, we came here just to try to get information about what was going on. I didn't realize it was gonna be up for a vote already. So, I mean, for what it's worth, we thought we would come down and, you know, talk about the parking and the traffic. It's gonna create a lot of traffic right there for us in that immediate cul-de-sac right across the street.
Thank you.
That's all I got.
The next speaker is Mei Chu Ting.
Welcome.
How are you? Thank you. Thank you for letting me speak here. I'm good neighbor with Waste, and we've been discussed, you know, for a long time for this problem. I wish, you know, it's like one enter and one exit. One exit on 103rd, which on 104, not on 103rd. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Jim Howe. That's the last speaker I had signed up.
Come on down. Welcome.
Hello, Karen Calavity. You know, I designed site plans for many, many years, and you know, it hurts my eyes sometimes to see some of these plans that they could be designed better, and they could be designed without exceptions. I don't understand why you have cul-de-sacs connected by a service road for the fire department. Just have a continuous road if that's what you're going to do. Don't cut a park in half with a service road. This idea of taking out, you know, the sidewalk and the trees so that it matches the existing, it's like, well, we're supposed to be improving, not lowest common denominator, matching existing, hopefully improving the design standards as we go along. So there's a lot of landscaping exceptions, which I don't understand why they cannot make this work with the design standards. I mean, it's not a terrible plan, but I just, again, when I see some of these designs done, and I know I've done some of this stuff, and I know how you can do it better and not have exceptions all the time. I just don't get it. They need to design it to meet the standards and to be better than the surrounding areas and meet more of the requirements rather than less of the requirements.
Thank you. Did we have any voicemails?
We had no voicemails.
Okay. City Council questions, anyone? Councilor Namella?
For staff, real quick. So I'm just noticing, or one quick question regarding the existing trees on the site. Are some of those going to remain the ones that are along 103rd?
I'm going to refer that to the applicant if that's okay with the counselor.
Okay. Yeah. But, yeah. Sorry.
Yes. A lot of the trees, the healthy ones, we did grade around them, and our intent is to keep the majority of those along 103rd.
Okay.
There's also several along the east property as well. So, yeah, we're trying to keep as many as we can.
Great. Thank you. I didn't love having, the attached sidewalks perpetuated in this infill site, but when I saw that there were the accommodation for having, 3 trees in the front yards. The only thing is I'm looking around the rest of the surrounding neighborhood, and there's maybe 1 tree in the front yard, and so is 3 trees? I would just say, is 3 trees going to fit in some of these? I mean, it's a lot of landscaping, so.
It's our understanding the applicant and their landscape architect is very confident that this is possible. The lots are fairly large, and in some cases a little bit larger than the surrounding neighborhood lots, so they are confident that they can.
Okay, that's good. Not that I'm against trees. And then, so just the accesses to the site. I'm just kind of curious how we ended up with just the 103rd. And obviously, there's an existing access off of 104th. And it looks like there has always been an intention to have some type of access with that existing driveway into a site. So just maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Yes. Unfortunately, Mr. Klein couldn't be with us tonight, so I'm going to channel as best I can Mr. Klein's perspective and my understanding of his review of this. Heath Klein, our transportation engineer, of course, was a part of the review. There are a few factors that led to the location of the driveway and the design that ultimately came from the applicant. As you noted, there is an existing curb cut to the vacant, or to the existing lot from 103rd Avenue. That particular curb cut does not meet the spacing requirements from the intersection of West 103rd Avenue and West 103rd Drive. The road curves as it goes eastward and forks into those two particular roadways. There's a specific distance that has to be met from that, and that distance pushed the driveway further west, or the entrance drive further west for this. As far as the access from 104th, it was somewhat of a safety priority for the city to remove that access. It's not a safe access point for a neighborhood to exit out onto 104th Avenue, which is a very busy road. There's also not a median crossing there, so all movements would have to turn eastbound 104th right in and right out to exit and enter the neighborhood. So the other factor that led to the location of the drive entrance off of 103rd Avenue is that's where the water service is. There's no water service in 104th. And so having that driveway, or having the roadway connect there, facilitates the utilities that are existing in 103rd Avenue. So there are a few factors that led to the design in terms of the entrance.
Okay, so the driveway that's there now, was it just assumed at some point this would redevelop and that would?
That's my assumption.
Yeah, I'm just gonna.
The applicant may have a little more historical background on that driveway, but that's typically why you would see a curb cut there. But it may be just for the sole purpose of accessing the existing house. I'm not sure unless the applicant has any more insight into that.
Okay, thank you.
I'm Chuck Haig, by the way. I didn't quite understand the question. You're referring to the home, the driveway for the home?
No, there's one that's off of 103rd Avenue.
Oh.
It's fenced off, so it's like, it seems like it's part of the existing neighborhood
Yeah, I'm not sure.
infrastructure.
My limited knowledge about the history of that is that there's actually 2 parcels here that make up the 7.7 acres. And they put that entrance right on the property line between the 2. So maybe it just kind of was a random point they chose. I don't know exactly why that point was chosen, but again, as he spoke earlier, as you go to the east, there's a site triangle issue for the safety concern. So whether or not that should have been placed there, maybe things have changed since they put that in, I don't know, but it doesn't function for us.
Got it. Thank you.
Counselor Seymour?
I think my question was already answered. Thank you.
Counselor Baker?
Just to clarify, though, the entrance to this infill site is on 103rd because the city asked for it to be that way.
The city preferred for it to be that way, yes. I'm
Right,
not
so-
sure that if the original design contemplated an access along 104th, but that is the city's preference for the utility perspective and the safety and access perspective.
Right, all, factoring in all those elements. Okay. And it seemed to me the majority of exceptions were asked to bring it into a match with the existing community.
That's correct. Specifically, and I'll point out the attached versus detached sidewalks. The surrounding neighborhoods were obviously built with attached sidewalks, as many neighborhoods were years ago. The standard became detached with a tree lawn, a 10-foot wide tree lawn between for new neighborhoods. Staff agreed that this would make sense on this small infill site to bring a little bit more compatibility and flexibility to the applicant. Infill sites, especially those of this size, are somewhat difficult to work with standards that are meant for much larger greenfield projects.
Right, so it was, so most of the exceptions being requested are to bring it into conformity with the existing neighborhood.
Yes, or to generally align with the design of the existing neighborhoods.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Just a quick question.
Oh, Counselor Emmons?
I'm just confirming that this aligns with our 2040 comp plan with water capacity.
Yes, it does. The comp plan designates this as residential low density. The baseline is 3.5 dwelling units per acre, and that's what this development brings.
Perfect, thank you.
See no other questions. It is 9:36. I will close the public hearing. Is there a motion for Councilor's Bill number 53? Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to pass Council Bill number 53 on first reading, amending the zoning of the subject property, 2 parcels comprising 7.69 acres, addressed as 3700 West 104th Avenue. This recommendation is based on the finding that the rezoning is generally supported by the criteria set forth in section 11-5-14 of the Westminster Municipal Code.
Counselor Emmons?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pass Councilor's Bill number 53. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Emmons.
Yes.
Counselor Azadi.
Yes.
Mayor McNally.
Yes.
Counselor Nermella.
Yes.
Counselor Seymour.
Yes.
Counselor Baker.
Yes.
And Mayor Pro Tem Demott.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
That brings us to item B9. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the preliminary development plan and official development plan for Orchard Estates Subdivision Plan Unit Development. This recommendation is based on the finding that the preliminary development plan and official development plan are generally supported by criteria set forth in sections 11-5-14 and 11-5-15 of the Westminster Municipal Code.
Counselor Emmons?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pass item B9. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Azadi.
Yes.
Mayor McNally.
Yes.
Counselor Nermella.
Yes.
Counselor Seymour.
Yes.
Counselor Baker.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott.
Yes.
And Counselor Emmons.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
That brings us to first reading of Councilor's Bills 54, 55, 56, and 57. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to Councilor Bill number 54. I think that's supposed to be moved to approve Councilor Bill number 54, amending Chapter 22 of Title I of Westminster Municipal Code concerning offenses, updating the chapter on probation to align with Colorado revised statutes.
Counselor Emmons.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pass first reading Councilor's Bills 54, 55, 56, and 57. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mayor McNally.
Yes.
Counselor Nermella.
Yes.
Counselor Seymour.
Yes.
Counselor Baker.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott.
Yes.
Counselor Emmons.
Yes.
And Counselor Azadi.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
Can I just ask for the items C1 through 7 are individual motions?
They are, Mayor.
Okay.
So each of the ordinances is to amend a specific section of the code.
I just
So that
wanted to
was
be sure.
the first of them. So Councilor's Bill 54 has now been
Okay,
approved on first
perfect.
reading.
That brings us to item C1, Councilor's Bill 54. Mayor Pro Tem.
Or we're up to number 55.
55.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to pass Council Bill number 55, amending Chapter 1 of Title 6 of the Westminster Municipal Code concerning offenses, updating the city's criminal harassment ordinance to align with current Colorado law.
Councilor Emmons?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pass Councilor's Bill 55. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Nermella.
Yes.
Counselor Seymour.
Yes.
Counselor Baker.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott.
Yes.
Counselor Emmons.
Yes.
Counselor Azadi.
Yes.
And Mayor McNally.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
That brings us to Councilor's Bill 56. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to pass Council Bill number 56, amending Chapter 2 of Title 6 of Westminster Municipal Code concerning harassment, updating the code to remove sections that no longer are applicable.
Councilor Emmons?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pass Councilor's Bill 56. Any further discussion? Councilor Seymour? Roll call, please.
Counselor Seymour.
Yes.
Counselor Baker.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott.
Yes.
Counselor Emmons.
Yes.
Counselor Azadi.
Yes.
Mayor McNally.
Yes.
And Counselor Nermella.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
That brings us to Councilor's Bill number 57. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to pass Council Bill number 57, amending Chapter 14 of Title 6 of Westminster Municipal Code concerning domestic violence program, updating the chapters on domestic violence to ensure alignment with Colorado law.
Councilor Emmons?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pass Councilor's Bill 57. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Baker.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott.
Yes.
Counselor Emmons.
Yes.
Counselor Azadi.
Yes.
Mayor McNally.
Yes.
Counselor Nermella.
Yes.
And Counselor Seymour.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
That brings us to resolution number 33. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to adopt resolution number 33 regarding City Council position on 2023 state ballot measure Proposition HH, reduce property taxes and retain state revenue.
Councilor Emmons?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pass or adopt resolution 33. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Baker?
Well, to clarify, what is the city's proposed position?
Oppose?
Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott.
Yes.
Counselor Emmons.
Yes.
Counselor Azadi.
It's opposing the.
No.
Mayor McNally.
Yes.
Counselor Nermella.
Yes.
Counselor Seymour.
Yes.
And Counselor Baker.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 6-1 vote.
That brings us to the revised employment agreement with Mark Freitag. Councilor Seymour?
I move to authorize the mayor to execute a revised employment agreement with Mark A. Freitag for his services as city manager for 2024 with an effective date of January 1st, 2024.
I'll second. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, roll call, please.
Counselor Emmons.
Yes.
Counselor Azadi.
Sorry, I have a comment before.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. I'm going to be voting no on this because, not because of Mark's performance, but I believe that from a fairness and equity standpoint, what this contract is asking for, just so everyone's clear, is a 17% raise. It's a 5% raise flat, but the $30,000 in the deferred comp, if you add it all up, total compensation, I don't think that's fair that the top of any organization gets more than the employees do. And from a severance standpoint, this is doubling
the severance from 6 months to 12 months. I just think that Mark has done such a great job. We need to see at least another year the results of that before we can automatically double someone's exit strategy, right? I just think that there are librarians, there's probably police officers, there are probably firefighters that would love a 17% raise and 12-month severance, but they're not getting that, so why should the top? So I'm going to be voting no.
Councilor Namela?
I will be voting yes on this. This position, the city manager position, is very different than a typical employee position. They are subject to pretty much 24-hour work weeks, 24 hours, 7 days a week, on call, and being subject to a city council's many questions. I think the city management team, they have to manage a lot from city council, but also residents, and it's a very difficult position. And as such, they are the overall salaries that are and compensation packages that are offered to city managers throughout the region are actually much higher than even what we're approving right now. So this brings him up to the lower end of the regional scale. And as city employees, as we look at, in any company, we look at market comparisons of other similar positions, and we do make adjustments. And I think this is fair. And so that's why I am in support of it. I definitely feel the concern of, if you just look at it apples to apples, but it is a very different position. So,
anyone else? Councilor Seymour?
Yeah, I'll be voting in favor of this. This is an equity issue because we went from one end of the spectrum to the other when we hired City Manager Freitag. We brought him in at the lowest end of the spectrum of the entire regional comparables, and he has performed and outperformed what council has asked of him, and we should compensate him that way. As Councilor Namela said, this still just puts him in the bottom third quartile of the entire region as it is. It's just now he's not on the bottom anymore. And I think you have to recognize people, if we're paying market or above for our staff, then that should be throughout the entire staff.
Councilor Emmons?
Thank you. I already voted yes, but I will be voting yes in that the severance is aligned with our city attorney, so our other employees, and then the increase is, if you look at it, 12% increase on average of all of our employees who received on average about a 5% increase. And so looking at it, it's only a 12% bump. And then the total of what the total compensation is, if you look at previous city manager contracts, it is well below of what we paid previous city managers. So it's still in alignment with what the city's goal is. So I will still be voting yes.
I was the negotiator for the team when we were doing this exactly a year ago. And we were low, and he asked for a different number. I came back to this group, and we raised it a hair. He happened to say yes. And I explained to him, he just is really caught in the crossfire of who we had before, and starting them at the highest in the state was not a positive thing for this city. So he got that and he understood it, but he has done a good job here. And I believe that getting him even moved up out of the bottom third, we owe that to him for coming in, and he has revised many things. He still knows there's still work to do. He has his eye on exactly what needs to be done to run this place in a very fair and lean manner, and he has done everything that we have asked him to do. So I will be supporting this. Seeing no one else, roll call, please.
I'm going to start over
Yeah.
just.
Thanks.
Counselor Emmons.
Yes.
Counselor Azadi.
No.
Mayor McNally.
Yes.
Counselor Nurmela.
Yes.
Counselor Seymour.
Yes.
Counselor Baker.
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott.
No.
The motion passes on a 4-3 vote.
That brings us to item 12A, second reading of the proposed budget. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to pass Council Bill number 47 on second reading, amending the 2023 budgets of general and general fund stabilization reserves, utility, golf course, fleet, general capital outlay replacement, parks, open space, and trails, general capital improvement funds, and authorizing a supplemental appropriation from the 2022 carryover and 2023 revised revenues.
Councilor Emmons?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pass Councilor's Bill 47. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Azadi.
Yes.
Mayor McNally.
Yes.
Counselor Nurmela.
Yes.
Counselor Seymour.
Yes.
Counselor Baker.
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott.
Yes.
And Counselor Emmons.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 6-1 vote.
That brings us to Councilor's Bill number 48. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to pass Council Bill number 48 on second reading, amending chapters 7, 8, and 12 of Title 8 of Westminster Municipal Code concerning the amount and implementation of water, sewer, reclaimed water fee rates.
Councilor Emmons?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pass Councilor's Bill number 48. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mayor McNally.
Yes.
Counselor Nurmela.
Yes.
Counselor Seymour.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Counselor Baker.
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott.
Yes.
Counselor Emmons.
Yes.
And Counselor Azadi.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 6-1 vote.
That brings us to Councilor's Bill 49. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to pass Council Bill number 49 on second reading, making appropriations to pay the expenses and continuing public business for the year 2024 and other purposes required by city charter by any other law.
Councilor Emmons?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pass Councilor's Bill 49. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Nurmela.
Yes.
Counselor Seymour.
Yes.
Counselor Baker.
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott.
Yes.
Counselor Emmons.
Yes.
Counselor Azadi.
Yes.
And Mayor McNally.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 6-1 vote.
It is 9:59, and we will adjourn this meeting, and we don't have any post-meeting.